And we're back.
Welcome to episode 205 of No Direction, the No Direction the No Direction Network's Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
Perram, it feels like we've been saying this a lot lately, but it's finally upon us.
What?
Gen Con 2019.
Oh, yes. Oh, wait. No, I can't do, no more panels. I can't record any more panels. I'm done with panels.
Perram, it's also behind us. It's come and gone. This past weekend was Gen Con, the best 4 days in gaming, and the release of second edition officially. And so many things just feel like they have been culminating at this weekend. How do you feel?
I feel very tired. Very, very tired. It's almost like we've been working a solid year for this day. Or actually several days ago.
So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to definitely talk about the fun and games that we got into, but the most important thing is the news. And I should point out, I didn't catch this news firsthand. So the information you're getting me, the insight you're going to provide, I am also getting it. It's not just our audience that is hearing this for the first time. Or second time if they listened during the seminars.
I got it firsthand. I'm a primary source.
All right. Well, Perram, we've got... First of all, the list of upcoming releases. That was the big news that was broken this weekend. And tell me about probably the biggest news and a bit of a surprise. The Advanced Player's Guide is coming again.
Advanced Player's Guide! So they basically said that this is to do exactly what the first Advanced Player's Guide did. They don't consider Pathfinder 2 complete until that book comes out. They basically say that book will mark their full vision of what the basic Pathfinder 2 will be. In fact, they said it went so far as to even say they will consider it a core book.
Now, I know when we were talking about the Lost Omens series of books, you were saying, like, this will be when you could see what they can do to advance the system. But I'm waiting for the Advanced Player's Guide to make that same judgment, because this will be a year into the system. They will know its quirks. They will know the areas that, now that the core bases have been covered, where are some of the gaps that they can improve on, and where are some design spaces that may have opened up after the core rulebook.
Right. I mean, that's where we're really going to see them playing with the core of the system itself and tweaking things. I do think that we're going to see like how the system can be advanced in the other books, but you're right. This is where they're really going to take the leash off and just go to town. And they started off strong. There are going to be 4 new classes added in this, and keep in mind this is going to be their next Gen Con book. We have a lot of stuff coming out between now and then. This isn't the next release. We're not going to be waiting a year for new product, but this is definitely the biggest news announced at the convention, so we're leading with it. But they're going to be 4.
There's going to be like 6 hardcovers between now and then, something like that, right?
Everything's a hardcover now, man. Everything's a hardcover. We're in a strange new Starfinder world.
So tell me about the Advanced Player's Guide. You said 4 new classes coming.
Yes, 4 new classes. It is going to be, as we expected, the Witch and the Oracle. We kind of theorized that those would be very quickly coming because flavor-wise, they're kind of hard to replicate, even if the Divine Sorcerer is kind of treading on Oracle ground mechanically.
So that's what I was going to say. Witch, I'm not surprised. Oracle, I thought the consensus was we don't need an Oracle because we've got Divine Sorcerer.
Yeah, so they're basically going to double down on the flavor of the Oracle when that class comes out, because it doesn't need to just justify its existence by being the Divine Sorcerer. And we've got...
And the other 2 classes?
The Swashbuckler, surprised to see that one as an opening one, because the game does very well with Dexy fighty types. The Rogue is very good at being a Dexy fighty type. But they said that this is going to be the king of mobility. This is the class that's going to be popping around the battlefield. I imagine you're going to be like swinging on ropes and doing acrobatic charges and all kinds of stuff that the Swashbuckler tried to do in the advanced class guide. And then finally, a surprise to all of us actually, the Investigator.
Surprise?
I think it is, because it's like, it's a skilly class. It's I like the Investigator a lot, but it's a hybrid class. And it just sort of seems a little early for it to show up. But it makes a lot of sense when you line it up with some of the other announcements, like the next AP, which is going to be very city focused and investigative focused, so it makes sense to lead with a class that can do those things.
So it's interesting. We had very different reactions because Investigator made sense to me. The Alchemist right now is the only book, the only class from the core rulebook that is filling that Alchemist space. And really, in first edition, that was similar until the advanced class guide came out, and suddenly you had the Investigator, and you had a lot of archetypes that added alchemy to other classes. So having the Investigator early means that the Alchemist is not he doesn't have a monopoly over alchemy. So I think Alchemist makes a lot of sense. Plus, it's a very urban character, which is not a niche that any of the core rulebook classes fill. I think it's a really strong choice for one of those 4 classes to follow up the core rulebook.
Especially with how urban we're going to be getting in the next few hardcover releases. We're going to get into it, but they announced a very urban focused adventure path. They announced a standalone mega dungeon taking place beneath Absalom. That's the biggest city in Galarian, and an entire hardcover based on Absalom itself. So there is a whole lot of urban for this thing to play in.
Now, I agree, like, you and I are spot on with the Swashbuckler. This feels like the Rogue is already covering this ground. And had you told me that the idea of the Swashbuckler was it's going to be very charisma-focused, and it's going to be all about the panache and, throwing in some witticisms to add to their combat skills. Okay, that's something that currently, at least from what I've been able to put together, not necessarily something you can do with core rulebook class without multi-classing into Bard. But you're telling me it's mobility, and it's like, yeah, the Rogue is extremely mobile right now. So that'll be curious to see how it separates itself from the Rogue. Yeah. The Witch is definitely the one that it's like, yeah, we knew the Witch was coming. When they were talking about popular classes that almost made it into core rulebook, Witch got listed. I automatically see which direction they're going to go with class features for the Witch that'll separate it from the existing casters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're not actually going to have to wait very long to get a taste of these at all. They're going to start the public playtest for these classes in October, just a little under 2 months away.
That's mind blowing. So schedule wise, it makes sense. That's usually around when they launch for the playtest for the Gen Con release, but just the core rulebook is still fresh. And so the idea that we're going to be getting these new classes already, it feels so soon. Not too soon, just surprisingly soon.
I am hyped for it. I think that this was the smart play because you're going to see them expanding the system immediately. We're going to see a lot of this coming up too with the Bestiary 2, which is the other product that was announced at the panel. That was another hardcover in the line. So it's going to be a spring book. So this is starting in October. Bestiary 2 hitting in spring. They are kind of shotgunning rules at us in a rapid pace. They intend for Pathfinder 2 to be a fully well-bodied game to rival its competition almost immediately.
Now, there's a couple of interesting things going on in chat. Specifically, Vanessa Hoskins, the network's own, says that Swashbuckler is funky. She thought it might be an archetype. I thought she was saying that they were saying it might be an archetype. I misread that. But Jay Franklin is saying that the Gunslinger was already announced as something that would be like one of the subclasses of Swashbuckler. Do you remember that from the seminar?
I do not remember them mentioning Gunslinger at all during the seminar.
Okay, so Jay Franklin, if you could just support your statement with your source, I'd appreciate that.
Right, because at the time they were honestly talking about Gunslinger as an archetype during several of the panels, as an example of they wouldn't have to make a bunch of Gunslinger archetypes. They could just make an archetype that any class could take. That was quoted again and again and again throughout all the panels.
Now, you've hinted at the Bestiary and the new adventure path that was announced.
But there's still goodies to have in the advanced class, in the advanced player's guide, not class guide. And this will not be an adventure path book. There are going to be 60 new archetypes available in it. And they mention things like Gladiator and a bunch of others I'm forgetting, because they just sort of... Basically, this is where the concept of archetypes is going to explode, just like it did in the advanced player's guide the first time around.
Yeah, that was in our review. We were like, oh, so archetypes of the core rulebook are just the multi-class archetypes, even though in the playtest we'd already seen hints of things like the pirate and the cavalier. So I don't know if it was just a space concern or if they felt that archetypes not related to the multi-classing needed some refinement before it could be released. But obviously the advanced player's guide is going to be the home for like the next major installment in what archetypes can do.
Okay. Jason WFD says it's 60 pages of archetypes, not 60 archetypes themselves. That does sound familiar, so I'm going to totally go with that particular reading. So thank you, Jason and Jay Franklin, for that quick correction. But that is still a lot of archetypes.
And it's safe to assume 4 of the archetypes are going to be the multi-class archetypes for the 4 new classes built in this book, right?
Yeah, of course. I didn't think about that, but that's a guarantee because they want multi-classing to continue to be as robust as it is.
That's still giving us at least 50 pages of archetypes of brand new concepts and content.
And of course, that's on top of lots of new spells, lots of new skill stuff, and 10 new ancestries.
Yes, the ancestries are, I think, what people have been expecting for a while of what the follow-up ancestries would be.
Right.
We've got the Asimar.
Right.
We've got Catfolk.
Yep.
Changeling, which is probably still going to be like the witch ancestor version of the Changeling and not any kind of shape changer like you might expect. It's confusing because they go with lore rather than the more popular use of that term, although I might be wrong. Just historically, a Pathfinder Changeling has had nothing to do with shape changing. It's been the ancestor of a witch, or is it a hag?
A hag.
My mistake. Duskwalker. Remind me who the Duskwalkers are.
Do not remember.
Okay. Dhampir, which is a vampire kin. Kobold, Orc, Ratfolk, Tiefling, and Tengu. Orc is not a surprise since they were saying it nearly made it into the core rulebook. Everything else there is a familiar name. I'm sure that the lack of... I'm drawing a blank on the fox folks name. Thank you. The lack of Kitsune might surprise and disappoint some people. That's probably the only one that I would have expected to be in the next volley of ancestries that didn't make this list, that also isn't included in one of the other books we know about already.
Now, I would say to expect that when they start exploring the TN area again, because that's kind of when it popped up the first time. But they put the Tengu in here, and that's a TN ancestry.
No,
also the rat folk are a TN ancestry in...
Oh, rats are everywhere.
Yeah, but they really focus on them in the TN books. Also, Asimar, Duskwalker, Dhampir, and Tiefling, I think I've got that right, are going to be able to be applied, are heritage ancestries that can be applied to other ancestries. Like they give an example of an Asimar dwarf.
Yeah, so it's similar to how half orcs and half elves worked in the core rulebook. Technically, they were in the human section. I don't know if these new ancestries are going to get their own section or be tied to some new type of section or be tied to humans. But the idea is that if you are half something other than a standard mortal, or I guess orcs and elves are standard mortals. All right, well, if you are a mixed race, a mixed ancestry, then you will be able to apply it to more than just humanity, which is nice.
And Kitsune Warlock in the chat comes to our rescue by saying that the Duskwalkers are a plane-touched race connected to the Boneyard. They fill the neutral plane-touched role. Thanks, Kitsune Warlock, for the help on that one. And that reminds us, we record this live in front of a Twitch audience every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. We're doing some show. Right now, it's this show. So if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat, and we will try to answer them throughout the episode.
Is there anything else we know about the Advanced Player's Guide?
Not much. Retail cost of $44.99, which is the new big, but not super big price for a hardcover. What we're used to, the 300-some page hardcovers.
All right, so now you have mentioned both the upcoming Adventure Path that was announced, which is not the next one, but the one that will be launching more or less at Gen Con. It says it's got a July release date, but that's usually...
Let's stay in the core line for now. We'll get to that one when I can really geek out about it.
Bestiary 2.
Bestiary 2! It's going to not be quite as big as Bestiary 1. For those of you who don't, the Bestiary 1 is oversized. It's bigger than previous bestiaries and had 400 monsters. This is going to be a normal-sized bestiary like we're used to from Pathfinder 1, 300-some pages, 300 monsters. It's going to have a lot of the returning monsters into it. We don't have a ton of info on this, by the way, but we do know we're going to get primal dragons, the Oni are coming back, and we're going to fight the Jabberwocky.
I'm not surprised about the Jabberwock because that's one of the main villains in the Kingmaker Adventure Path, which we already know is being crowdfunded. It's successfully crowdfunded, and that should be coming
right about the time,
sometime in 2020.
Yeah, I think that's aiming for a right before Gen Con release, if I'm getting the updates right on that.
Now, there's the stat that there will be over 800 monsters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition's first 8 months. So if it's 400 in the first Bestiary, 300 in this one, I think most of the extra 100 plus that are missing will be in the Kingmaker books that's coming out. So I have a feeling there won't be
there's going to be
lot
monsters.
of overlap.
There's going to be monsters in all the APs. They're always in the back of APs. There's 5 or 6 monsters each volume. That's 12 volumes that will come out between now and then.
Is 5 or 6 each volume? I thought it was 5 or 6 each AP.
Each AP volume.
So each individual book will have 5 or 6 monsters in it?
Usually.
Oh, all right. I do not read through enough of the APs. So I was under the impression there were 2 books in the line that always had monsters in it. I guess I'm wrong.
So that's about 40 to 50 monsters that we can expect there. And then, of course, the hardcovers are going to have monsters in them too. So that's some more. Lots of monsters.
We're not shy of monsters. I hope I get my Froghemoth and my Yurthak back by then. Yurthak I'm not so excited about. I seem to be the only one that cares. Sorry, I'm not so optimistic about. I'm the only one that seems to care about the Yurthak, but Froghemoth, come on.
I would be surprised if we don't see a Bestiary 2 Froghemoth.
Let's hope we're not surprised, and we get that.
The next big announcement was the Agents of Edgewatch Adventure Path. This is CSI Absalom. The heroes are members of the Absalom City Watch and must solve a series of bizarre murders, thefts, and destruction carried out on a crime wave during the World's Fair-style celebration to reopen the city's once decimated Precipice District.
Sorry, I was trying to get a link to the Yurthak for chat. Did the Yurthak never make it into Bestiary, into Pathfinder 1?
I do not know. I've never really thought about the Yurthak. I've honestly, until
the
this
Yurthak
moment,
is a sonic pterodactyl. Sorry,
this moment, I have never heard of the Yurthak.
I like the Yurthak for reasons that are not worthy of this of derailing this conversation. So sorry, Agents of Edgewater. You're playing the city guard.
You're the guard. You're the cops. I
like that.
You're gonna be they have different backgrounds that you can choose from to be like what it's like to be a cop from the different districts. And you can be like the fine upstanding cop, the cop that took care of the nobles, or like the one down in the puddles who's on the take, and like all kinds of different options.
You could play a cop on the take.
Yeah, and like they say they're going to even open it up with like you're going to have to non-lethally settle problems in the city when adventurers do what adventurers do, as well as try to solve these crimes and murders. And it's all taking place inside the city of Absalom. They promise that at no point in the AP will your characters have to leave the city. It's not going to be like Curse of the Crimson Throne, where halfway through you take a field trip for a book and a half to some who knows where you don't care about.
Yeah, Hell's Rebels does something similar. In book 3, you start it. It's kind of like a series of side quests, and something like 4 of the 5 side quests are outside the city. That is supposed to be the whole point of your rebellion.
I like Lava Being's quote, maybe this is the anti-murder hobo AP.
Finally get to track down those murder hobos, teach them a lesson.
Servant Laureate, dying 3 counts as non-lethal, right?
What?
Oh, but when we get to banter,
not dead?
I'll tell you all about dying 6.
Oh, yes, I've heard. You've already got a reputation for dying a lot in 2nd edition.
No!
So we know a little bit more information about a lot of the releases coming out in the next year, but those are the 3 new, at least Pathfinder-related announcements, correct?
That is... Well, we also know another announcement, which was we know that the Game Mastery Guide is coming out soon, but it also got pushed back a little bit. It's got pushed back into early spring instead of late 2020. And so they have said that because the monster creation rules are so important, they may release those early as a PDF download.
So sorry, it was supposed to be late 2019, but now it's early 2020?
Yes.
Okay. I saw in chat there was some debate about whether it was supposed to be out in February 2020 and is now in January, but you seem to have a lot more information than what was going on in chat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the monster design rules I'm looking forward to, but basically with the way monsters work now, I feel like reskinning is easier until, and like just tossing a couple of abilities on is a lot easier until you have like a much better formalized rules for it.
Right. I mean, I think that's what they say. This is going to be a play test. They basically mentioned like a good time to release it would be like when they went to the printer, so that, you know, they'd be finalized and formalized at that point. While it is super easy to kind of guess monsters based off of bestiary monsters, it's been pretty easy for me to reskin orcs into thugs and warriors and stuff like that. It is also would be real darn nice to have the official math there. Also, Hero Lab seems to have some sort of monster creator built in, so maybe they already have that math.
So I just opened up the bestiary table of contents, wondering if there was something I could reskin into the Froghemoth. And right in the table of contents, there is a Frogman.
Okay, so you need to put the advanced template on him 14 times.
I could just take the Aboleth rules and apply his tongue ability to it.
That works. And that, I think, concludes the big book announcements from it. There are some other announcements that are from the Lost Omens that look really cool. Especially... Okay, so actually, there's actually lots more to talk about.
Do you want to just go down the list? We've got the list of the products that.
Now we're going to go down the list. There's so much announced. They waited till the 2019 and Beyond seminar, which will be the first seminar we release very, very soon on the podcast convention streams for those of you who didn't watch it live. So first up is one coming up at the end of the month. We already knew this was coming. Lost Omens World Guides. It's going to be the overview of the 10 Inner Sea regions that we got introduced to in the core rulebook. There's going to be backgrounds and archetypes there's going to be an archetype for each class. Each region. Not each class. New backgrounds and an archetype for each region. Because archetypes are not class specific! Mm-hmm. And we'll have they said a huge, quote-unquote huge, double-sided poster map of the Inner Sea region, one side of which will be what we're used to seeing, like the one we saw in the core rulebook, blown up, with lots of more labels on it than the one in the core rulebook. And the other side will be an artistic rendering, like an in-character map that your characters might actually see in-game.
Like that.
Next up is another one we knew about, Lost Omen Character Guide. They talked about this at PaizoCon. New heritages, new ancestries. This is the one that's going to have the Lizardman, the Lishi, and the Hobgoblin in it.
Yeah, this one is the one I'm looking forward to. I like the idea of exploring the factions and how the factions will each have at least one archetype tied to them.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's going to have faction templates, so you can make monsters more like a faction. Okay, next up was accessories. They just rattled off a bunch of accessories. Critical hit deck. And critical fumble deck.
We don't have an exact number of cards to my knowledge, but critical hit and critical fumble have been, like, they were part of first edition for a long time. I believe the critical hit deck was older than the advanced player's guide. And there even were apps that had a lot of fun sound effects when you were applying your critical hit, when you're rolling your critical hit. So I've been fond of critical hits in the past, critical hit decks in the past, although admittedly they can be swingy. That's kind of the point of having a randomizer. Critical fumble has always felt a little harder of a sell because players roll so much more than the GM, or at least like for any individual character. So a critical fumble deck feels like it's much more of a penalty on the players.
Yeah. Also, critical fumbles are going to happen so much more often now, because it's -10 instead of just a natural 1.
Right. And as of now, there is no side effect to having a critical fumble. But once you apply a critical fumble deck, you're actually adding a deterrent besides just automatically missing.
Yeah. I'm very publicly not a fan of the critical hit and fumble decks. They are fun. They are hilarious. They add excitement. They are flavorful. They kill players. Because the players are going to be on the receiving ends of so many more of those crits than the monsters ever care about. A monster Whether it dies in 4 rounds or dies in 1 round, it's the same darn thing to that monster. It doesn't matter in 20 minutes. Players getting super deadly crit. Ooh, not that this game isn't deadly enough as it is. Woo.
I've used critical hit decks to, the enjoyment of my players, and I don't think it's killed any of our PCs. Maybe we were just lucky, but it feels like as soon as you start getting the same effect twice, that's when the critical hit loses its novelty and people just want to go straight to the numbers.
Mm-hmm. But, I know a lot of people were big fans of this. They should totally be happy and buy this. And this was a very, very popular product for a reason. Not for my table, but it might be for yours.
We've got 2 products that are related to the Bestiary, one of which is standard, one of which I'm pretty excited about. Let's start with the standard one.
The least surprising announcement of Gen Con. The Pathfinder Bestiary Pawn Box. Coming out in November, $50. A little bit more. It's about $10 more than the pawn set. But again, this is because there's about 100 more monsters in Bestiary 1 than there is in a typical Bestiary. 400 creature pawns inside here. Sturdy cardstock, just like we're used to. Includes a pack of bases. This is officially the biggest pawn set they've ever made.
This is one, I'm not sure if I'm going to get it. I've got several of the Bestiary, of the pawn boxes from first edition. And, pawns are system neutral. Mm-hmm. So unless I'm really itching for the new art, this is something that I feel like I can pass on. Although, if PaizoCon tends to give out the pawn boxes is part of the loot bag, so I might end up with one even if I don't go out of my way to get one.
I am totally buying this thing because the new art looks really sweet. Those kobolds, that troll, that cool Hydra, it looks cool.
So the cover.
Yeah, the cover. Well, that's what I got. I got the book right here. You could open it up and read it, but we're going to save that review for a future episode.
Not too far in the future, though.
Right.
Next up, this is what I'm excited about. The Bestiary Battle Cards. 400 quick reference cards for every monster in the Bestiary. It is a 4x6.
Yeah, this is a big old card. Big old card. It's 101 millimeters by 152 millimeters for you Canadians. I did that math just for you, Ryan.
Thank you, Perram. But yeah, so these are going to be super handy. And when I'm building encounters, just having a stack of cards instead of the Bestiary, like I could have 100 monsters ready to go in less of a footprint behind my GM screen than one Bestiary book. So that's really valuable to me.
And so there's a thing I intend to use these for. Like I use face cards. I did a thing where I take 2. Okay, I bought so many pawn boxes and then so many extra pawn bases over the years that I just have a billion of these things laying around, more than I'll ever actually use. So I took 2 of them, glued their bottoms together, and I can put it on top of the initiative, the GM screen, and I can slot a face card in on top of it. I'll be able to do that with the monsters. You see this, roar, and then put the mini down.
Nice. And Kitsune Warlock in chat says that they make card sleeves for 4x6.
They do. I have a bunch, they also, for the Hero deck, those are also extra large cards, and I sleeved all of mine, and I like having that so much.
We're back to books in January. Oh, sorry. The pawns are coming in November. The battle cards are coming in December. As much as I'd love to wait until December to review the Bestiary so that I could review it with battle cards, because as soon as those battle cards come out, it's going to change how I use the Bestiary. Yeah. It's just going to have to be separate reviews, because the Bestiary, I have too many thoughts about to wait until December.
Right. And this is why I've got art to show you because, oh wait, no, this is the old art. They showed us off the new cover earlier. I want the new cover.
I don't know what cover you're talking about.
Oh. Okay, so Gods and Magic, they showed off this really cool new cover, which had, like, the Starstone pictured on the front of it, with, underneath it was, Iomedae, Kaedin, and Norberger, just the underneath it, and it was just this really sweet looking cover. And it's the first time we ever saw the Starstone.
Oh, cool. Yeah. What's it look like?
It looks like a big chunky crystal that's thinner on the bottom and real spiky on top. I wish I had an image of it handy. I thought I could just pull the Paizo website, but evidently that was for the streams, and I don't have an image of that super handy. But
so
here's what
spiky,
I got.
I assume it's spiky like a starburst?
like a geode, if you broke up in a geode.
And so what you're showing now is an old stand-in piece of art for the
That's
cover?
what we saw at PaizoCon. Oh. Vanessa Hoskins comes to the rescue! Thanks, Vanessa.
So,
There
I
it
see
is.
what you're saying now. It's not it's not the highest resolution, so I can't quite make out details of the Starstone, but now that you've told me that's a Starstone, that's exciting.
And as the Dungeon Novice points out, they pointed this out during the stream, all those skeletons surrounding it are the bones of those who tried and failed.
Well, that makes sense. Also, I feel like there's a lot more bones that have just kind of avalanched off to the sides.
I mean, you have to get that far. I imagine that dungeon is super hard.
That's a good point. Yeah, those are the top 10%, if that, of people that have gone on the quest for the Starstone. So this is a book I'm looking forward to, and I'm glad it's getting the hardcover treatment. Gods and Magic was also the name of a book from the Pathfinder Chronicles line before it became the Pathfinder campaign setting line, and it was considered the most important of the softcover Pathfinder Chronicles books, and skyrocketed in value, especially because it was, I believe there were a lot of issues with the spine, or it might have just been because people used it so much that theirs were falling apart faster than the other books that more sat on the shelf for a little longer. So I know we did eventually in first edition get another hardcover that's dedicated to Gods and Magic, but gods are such a pivotal part of the campaign setting. And I know for what I've said about not being a fan of the campaign setting, I do appreciate the gods. I do appreciate that lore. And there is a lot to inform how you build a character based on gods. So I'm looking forward to this book coming out early, and this completes the Lost Omens trilogy, right? This is the campaign setting books that are coming out early.
Yeah, and they're really doubling down at Gen Con about calling these Lost Omens books. So I don't know if this is going to be the World Guideline or the Lost Omens Guideline in the future. But they're definitely saying this is the Lost Omens campaign setting, not the Pathfinder campaign setting.
Yes. So, and based on the age that the Pathfinder campaign setting takes place in.
Yeah. Evidently, this was originally Eric Mona said this was his original pitch for the name of the campaign setting when they launched it, and they decided to not go with that. And this was his chance to correct that mistake, which was the quote from the panel. So what's next up?
A few more products to talk about. Next one, the Extinction Curse Adventure Path, also known as the Circus Adventure Path.
Right. So basically, Eridan's this god that we talk about because he's dead and he caused all the fun stuff to happen in the campaign setting. It also turns out he was a jerk. Because when he wanted to populate this brand new island he rose up out of the ocean, he went down and stole almost all of these troglodytes' magic stones of awesome sauce that helped stuff grow and be prosperous. The troglodytes are tired of that, and they want their stones back. And that's not a good thing for the Isle of Krotos.
And where does the circus come in?
The circus is touring around the Isle of Krotos. And you just sort of get little clues as you're forced to move from stop to stop to stop. And then eventually you have to put together what's going on and how to stop it. But you also have to make your mark and appear in the big tent.
And Vanessa Hoskins in chat shared an image from the slideshow. And it's got Lini having Drugami jump through a ring of fire. You've got Fumbus juggling rings of fire, smaller rings.
I'm going to show it while you describe it, because our audience that is listening to this can't see this, but I'm putting it up on screen now.
So yeah, it is a classic circus scene, just happens to be populated by Pathfinder iconics.
Yeah, they mentioned that Amiri would be the strong woman for the circus and everything.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the art in this. I can't say that I'm super excited to be playing in a circus, but I know that when it was announced at PaizoCon, and got just one of the biggest applauds of the banquet, obviously a lot of people are.
So next up is going to be the Game Mastery Guide. This is the one that got pushed back from late this year, early next year to February, maybe. Who knows? That's still in the air. It definitely got pushed back though. This is going to have lots of subsystem rules. They said this is where the chase rules, vehicle combat rules, and stuff we're used to from Pathfinder 1. This is how to make monsters, NPCs, etc., as well as advice for adventures and campaign settings. It's going to have the little NPC bestiary inside of it, which, was one of the favorite things we had about the first version of this. And it's also going to have alternate rules. One of the ones they mentioned is how to take out the level bonus from the game and still play it.
What do you mean take out the level bonus?
You know how proficiency is level plus something?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So how to play the game without the level part of that plus something.
So when I was reading the core rulebook, that game mastery section is excellent and especially serves as a great piece of advice for GMs. Mm-hmm. So I was curious what the game mastery guide was going to be. And it feels like it's not going to be a guide. It's going to be a resource. It's going to be a game mastery resource, and it's going to be more crunchy than the game mastery section of the core rulebook.
Yeah. And it definitely is. It looks like almost like they're trying to mirror what the game mastery guide was the first time with a lot of what's in this thing.
It feels like a combination of game mastery guide, ultimate campaign, and Pathfinder Unchained.
Yeah, that is true. But less Unchained. I think just a little less Unchained.
Now, I am nervous that the chase rules are making it to second edition.
No.
I do not like the chase rules in first edition.
Maybe it'll be all new, all exciting.
Well, if you tie it into exploration mode, there is definitely the potential for it to be better. It's just, I've got issues with those chase rules. I see that as one of the listed features, and it immediately sets up a red flag.
So Vanessa
Something
Hoskins,
that sends up like a checkered flag, though, is the vehicle combat. I know there wasn't a whole lot follow-up to Ultimate Combat from the first edition on vehicles, but I definitely like the potential of vehicles in Pathfinder.
So Vanessa Hoskins is pointing out that we should definitely thank Servant Laureate for screen capping these, and I do remember when I was broadcasting the slideshow during the live show, when I would put up the slide, it was uncanny how quickly Servant Laureate had these shared to our Discord server. So thank you, Servant Laureate, for doing that. It is benefiting us even now in the future. Honestly, some of those slides I had up for maybe a second, and they managed to grab that right away.
I suspect macros were involved.
Macros? Did you cheat, Servant Laureate? Were you using...
That's not cheating, that's winning.
Enhancements? But we really appreciate it. It's making this episode so much easier to be able to pull those. V, keep them coming.
Next item on the list, I'm not sure I had heard about this
Dead
before.
God's
Was this announced at
Hand!
Gen Con?
It was announced between PaizoCon and Gen Con, but the full scope of it wasn't explained until Gen Con. We have the Dead God's Hand, which is this crypt beneath Absalom that used to be a sort of like temple/test for clergy of Eridan, but now that he's dead, wonky stuff is happening down there. It was sealed off, it was thought lost, it gets uncovered, and the PCs have to delve. It's a big super dungeon adventure path, hardcover, $34.99 retail. There's going to be a flip map multi-pack of the dungeon available for purchase as well, so I'm getting Emerald Spire vibes off this thing. And it's going to talk a lot about the Starstone, Eridan himself, like a lot of stuff we haven't really explored about one of the most important deities of the campaign setting.
According to Lava Being in Chat, or Lava Being in Chat is asking, is this Eric Mona's internal Paizo campaign for the second edition playtest?
This was his internal campaign. I don't know if it was for the playtest or not, but I do know that this adventure was based upon his internal campaign.
And is he the writer of it?
Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Eric Mountain doesn't get to write often, but when he does, it's really good stuff.
All right, finally, we've got a couple of tied together products. Absalom City of Omens, the book, and the poster map. So this is going to be another hardcover?
Here's the secret. These have all been tied together because Absalom is central to the Agents of Edgewatch. It's central to Dead God's Hand. It's also adjacent to the Extinction Curse. So a massive amount of what the adventures you could be doing in Pathfinder 2nd Edition during its first year and going into a second needs information about this city. And so this is going to be, if you remember, it had a really cool campaign setting book, like a 64 pager for Absalom, City at the Center of the World. Now it's going to get a full-blown hardcover treatment, and just go into infinite detail about this city. They said that they're not quite going to be able to Google map you down to the street level, but that the map will be showing individual buildings.
Now, as much as I understand the fandom behind Sandpoint, it makes a lot more sense to me that Absalom is getting a hardcover than that Sandpoint got that super volume. It was still a soft cover, though, right? The Sandpoint one?
Yeah, it was a 96-page soft cover.
Absalom is a city that comes up, at least it came up enough in Pathfinder Society, and it makes sense to have so much lore and so much going on around it that it deserves a hardcover, and it deserves one fairly early into the second edition's life.
So V provided us with another one of them, and then Agents of Edgewatch slide, we've already seen that. Bestiary cards, I'm going to throw those up on screen because we actually have some pictures of what they look like. There are the Bestiary cards. As you can see, on one side is just the full 4x6 glorious art that I will put on top of my GM screen facing the players while the stats face me.
That's a great way of doing it. And so the sample that I'm looking at right now is an adult silver dragon, so a CR14 creature. So you'd imagine that's got more abilities than the average creature.
Yeah.
And although it looks like it's got kind of a fine font, the font size is a little small, but it does manage to fit all the details on there.
Yeah. I mean, this just goes to show you how well Pathfinder 2 has gotten the stat blocks efficient for just the information you need at the table. If a big old blasted dragon can fit on a card.
So is that it for products that we know are coming in the next year that we've got some amount of details on?
For the Pathfinder side of things, you'll have to tune into the next No Direction Beyond for when we talk about that side of the house.
Will that be next week?
Week after? No, because the next thing we have scheduled is Geek Together.
Okay.
We have to figure that out. There might be scheduling changes and shenanigans in the future, gang.
Follow us on Facebook and on nodirectionpodcast.com. You'll find out our schedule.
When the cons hit, it just takes a wrecking ball right through our regular schedules.
So, what are some of the other highlights from the seminars that you saw?
Well, a really cool seminar was when the iconic seminar where they had Ryan Reynolds come up and explain the evolution of like how he thought of the art for some of the main characters, like exactly like where the shield for the new Valeros was going. It was just really fascinating to see a lot of that art evolve through development. Especially Fumbus. Like there was like a lot of Fumbus. Like Fumbus went through a lot before we got what we got for the iconic goblin. And a lot of art that was never shown off before. Like the very first version of Sione was shown off, that the original sketch that we never got to see. So that was one I was really happy to see.
Cool. Is that well, I guess the video is somewhere on Twitch, right? Because
I don't know that that's been divided up yet into highlights yet. That's on Paizo, and they'll probably put it on their YouTube channel like they did with the PaizoCon ones. But we are already hard at work, and by we I mean Vanessa Hoskins has already been hard at work working on the audio for the seminars to post on our podcast stream.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Because I was planning on doing this in the shoutouts, but kudos to you and the No Direction team, which did not include me. I need to really make sure people understand that. I did not do any work for the Gen Con coverage, but you all did an amazing job covering the seminars. I heard such amazing things about the great job that you all did. So do you want to just kind of sum up what your Gen Con was like and exactly how much was spent in that seminar room and all the hard work you did?
So I love my team. They did so well. The team was myself, Vanessa Hoskins, Lauren Sieg, and James Ballard from No Direction Beyond. And it was they showed up. They hit their marks. They stayed well past. Some of them skipped breaks. Shenanigans. And they helped out, and we basically got there an hour before stream start, and we stayed well late into the evening making sure that every single one of those panels was broadcast live to Twitch with accompanying slides so that you could actually see what they were talking about, see character art, see Wayne Reynolds' sketches, see covers, see examples of accessories we're not going to see for a while. So, and it was just a ton of work. A ton of man hours were put into this thing. I even got in on Wednesday. It started up on Wednesday. Got down there about 11 or 12 o'clock, and put in 7 hours of setup time on the seminar room with Peyton from Paizo, and then came back. He had put in another 3 hours, and then I closed out with another 2 hours helping out with him and Eric Mona, who showed up to help put it together. There was easily, I mean, not individually, just consecutively, we're talking like 50 hours of work to get those seminars out to you guys, that I put in personally, and then the team putting in another 30 to 40 hours each to make that happen.
Well, I know that on the first day you had posted a video to our Facebook page about the seminar coverage was happening soon, and a lot of the replies were things like, thanks, I don't get to be at Gen Con, so I don't get to see these seminars otherwise. And then some people were like, thanks, I'm at Gen Con, and so I'm busy with Gen Con, so I don't get to see these seminars. So thank you so much for this coverage. And that's the camp I fall under. So Perram, to you, to Alex, James, Vanessa, and Lawrence, thank you for providing this information to us, getting us these things, putting in all these hours. It's not thankless, because I do know that you have been thanked several times, but I don't think you can be thanked enough for the sacrifice you made and the amount of work you put in for the network and for the community.
I'm just glad everybody's really appreciating what we did and are getting to enjoy it. I mean, we do this so that it isn't just 100 people in that room that get to have fun. It's the thousands of you out there listening to this right now. Well, actually, not live, but eventually we'll be listening to this and getting to experience what Gen Con is actually like.
I would be impressed if someone was listening to one of those seminars and listening to us, because listening to 2 podcasts at once is a skill I have not developed yet.
Ah!
So what were some of your Gen Con highlights outside of that seminar room, which I know is a fraction of the amount of time that you actually spent at Gen Con? But what are some of the things you did that you enjoyed? What are the things you saw?
So there was another big thing we did that started the chain of death. And I see that Stephen Glicker's in chat right now. I'm going to be shouting out to him in just a minute. But my death did not start at Stephen's table, even though he killed me hardest. No, I started with when we did Tomb Heist. So on the first day of streaming on Thursdays, me and Lauren had to duck out and hand the reins over to V, while she handled the stream and James handled questions. That was sort of the divide. Me and V would handle the stream, and you know, the camera switching and the slide switching and the mics, and then Lauren or James, or sometimes both, would like handle the mic out there with questions and handle the panel and make sure all that went smoothly. But then me and Lauren go over to do a special actual play of Pathfinder 2nd Edition with a couple of the members of Dragons and Things, who were awesome as ever. We played with them last year, and did a live playthrough of adventure he put together just for us called Tomb Heist, which was a shopping spree through an abandoned city that was destroyed by the Whispering Tyrant and filled full of nope. So we were all very different builds of rogue, and a lot of it was to show how very different the same class could be built. I was a rogue wizard. There was a rogue barbarian. She was very angry. She's very good at being very angry. I think there was a rogue a rogue sorceress or cleric. I'm not really sure. And of course there was Lauren, who just played straight rogue, and she was very good at it. We were all competing to see who could. We had to cooperate in air quotes and loot the city while the zombies were running around and get out of there before dawn. And it was fun. It was a good excuse for us to just go on wild roguey shenanigans, sneaking through, avoiding zombies, tricking ghosts, stealing everything that wasn't knocked down, running the heck away from angels. But of course it all ended in terrible disaster, unless you're Lauren, in which the three of us all meet a mummy and die terribly to it one at a time. To be fair, we didn't actually die until Lauren set the building on fire, and the fire killed our paralyzed, unconscious characters.
And the mummy?
And the mummy.
You've been avenged.
That was actually streamed on the Gen Con official Twitch channel. We actually were on the front page of Twitch for that, so that was a kind of nerve-wracking for Lauren. I know she was really nervous through it, but she did a fantastic job. All of the players were really on point. It was a blast. I do recommend when they put that up on their YouTube channel, you check that out. You can probably see it on their Twitch stream somewhere. It looks like Vanessa Hoskins already found it and linked it in Twitch. That will disappear in about a week. So go watch that now, if you can. Well, not now. Wait till after our show's over. Then go watch it. But do watch it before it expires, because it took them a couple of weeks to get it on YouTube last year.
I'm surprised they've got you facing each other this year. Last year, I liked when we were all spread out and we were all facing the audience.
So they had 3 cameras. So there was like a camera that pointed at just me and Lauren, a camera that pointed just at the Dragons and Things crew, and then a camera that pointed at all of us, and also a camera that pointed just a close-up of Jason. It was a really well put together production.
All right, then. I take back what I just said. Well, no, I'm still surprised, but I like that they thought that through.
Then, of course, my exercise in exploring the death and dying rules continues into our special, which we played with. Stephen Glicker organized this table that was just packed full of all-stars. There was some friends he brought with him. There was a member of the Order of the Amber Die with us. There was, of course, me, Vanessa, and Lauren. It was just a really packed all-star table. And it was fantastic. It was so much fun playing with so many professionals without the camera focused on us, when we were really just playing to each other. You know, so often I get to play with so many high caliber players that I honestly don't deserve. And it's a bit stressful because, you know, the microphones are on or the cameras are on, and it's a performance. We're trying to entertain you all. But when we just get to cut loose and just have fun, and Stephen was out for blood. He was totally trying to kill all of us very aggressively, and it was very fun watching him do that. And he succeeded! He got me! It was, 1-0-0, Origin of the Open Road, and he totally killed me. I was playing Kyra, level 5 Pregen, got triple crit to an acid trap. I found out what dying 6 looked like, which is a lot like a puddle of goo with equipment floating on top of it. He rolled 3 identical 19s on his dice, and he's the kind of GM that just throws it out in front of the table so you all see it coming. And ouch, that hurt. It was a noble sacrifice moment because my character was stuck alone in the trap room because the others weren't making it out so great. So I did a 3-round burst heal, which means I had to face the 3 attacks of the trap alone. I would have been fine, except all 3 rolls were 19, which all crit.
Oof.
It was actually a very viciously brutal PFS adventure of a lot of very hard fights. I'm surprised we made it through that alive. Well, I'm surprised the rest of them did. Thankfully, we also learned the resurrection rules at the end of it, and they brought Kira back.
Which is nice, because I was talking to him afterwards, and he was saying that everyone kind of pooled their resources so that you didn't have to have a blank spot right at the top of your PFS 2E characters.
Yeah. Well, that happened. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. And is that where all your dying that weekend ended?
No. Well, okay. I'm from the rest of the convention. I had one more game I got to play for PFS, which was the Mosquito Witch 102, 103. I forget which one it is. A pretty role-playing heavy PFS adventure where we're investigating this mysterious Mothman-like disturbances in this town, except it's all mosquitoes, so that's extra itchy and kind of disgusting. I don't want to go into spoiler territories, but it in the final battle, which is kind of keyed up really hard because there's not a lot of battles in this one, so the final one was kind of like a whole bunch at once. I got double backstab crit and actually quadruple backstab with one of them being a crit. And it took my character, which was a custom built version of Darius Chainbreaker, which you'll remember from the live stream we put up for PF2. I started to build him out from level 1 in PFS, and he just went straight into from full hit points to dying 2 immediately. But thankfully they picked me up that time, so I didn't have to explore the resurrection rules again.
And that was all. That was all your gaming and all your dying?
That wasn't all my gaming, because another thing we did was the meetup for No Direction.
Yes, we finally got the No Direction meetup going. It was fairly last minute because it wasn't an official event anywhere in the Gen Con catalog, just something we've been putting together in our Discord server and through our social media. The idea being that just Friday night, if you're not doing anything, come hang out with us. We can game, we can eat, we can chat. We did all 3 of those things. We had about 3 dozen people, including the network staff, that showed up. And Jason Boldman showed up at one point, which was really nice. And so did several of my Blind Ferret coworkers. In fact, one of my coworkers was late behind the group, so I left to go lead him back. And as I was leading him back to the room, I was passing all the people that were leaving the party. So I knew they were playing Weeby Goblins 3, and I was like, well, as much as I would love to play that, I've learned that at Gen Con, you can't regret what you're not doing when what you are doing is having fun. So I was enjoying the chat and the potential to play with other people that were fans of the network, and was okay missing Will's Weeby Goblin game. But then when I came back to the room, a good chunk of people had left, and then everyone else that was there had settled into a game. So that worked out for me. I got to sit in on Will's game, play with some of my coworkers, some of which had played very rarely or never. And we all got to have fun playing Weeby Goblins 3, which is not a Weeby Goblins that I had played before. So we only got halfway through the scenario, but a lot of fun was had there. That ended up being the only role-playing that I got to play the whole weekend, which is surprising that the only role-playing I got in was Pathfinder 1 scenario. I was hoping to get in PFS scenario, the replayable one, so that I mentioned this on the last episode with Mark and Linda. My plan was to play that one, and then I could bring it into Montreal PFS scenario as a GM, having already played it. But when I say it was my plan, that was very loose definition of the word plan, because I did not have a ticket. I did not have any actual time put aside to do it. It was a hope, not a plan.
Well, I'm glad you got to do some role-playing, but before it all kicked off, that little 3-hour break I took in the endless setup hours, we got to do something else special.
Oh, yes. We got to do an escape room on Wednesday evening. Was this your first escape room? I forget.
This was, the first time I've ever done an escape room. It was kind of overwhelming and kind of a bit freaky.
A bit freaky. Interesting. So this was an art heist. I'm not going to reveal any of the tricks and any of the puzzles that we had to solve, but it was Yumi and Lauren from the network, and then several of my Blind Ferret coworkers, including a couple of volunteers that we had at our booth who I had never met before. So it was like, well, this is a good way to meet somebody. Just throw them into a high stress situation with limited amount of time and tell them to solve a series of problems. It was one of the more clever ones that I've ever participated in. There were some technology integrated into it, which was always fun when the technology is working, which in this case it was. And although we failed, so we succeeded in getting the Mona Lisa, we failed to get it out of the room. Yeah,
we couldn't figure the last puzzle out to open the door to get out. Actually, we figured it out after they gave us a mulligan after doing a chicken dance in front of a camera, which I'm pretty sure is going to end up on a Facebook page somewhere.
I'm sure they've got millions of those chicken dances. At most, we have to worry it'll be part of a compilation.
And then when we finally figured out exactly what we had to do, it was too much math for us to do in 15 seconds.
I think it was it was a combination of too much math and some of the players monopolizing the numbers. And this was a rare escape room that had a whiteboard in there, which I thought was extremely clever, because I've been in some escape rooms where you have to do a lot of math in your head.
No.
This one, had we just written the numbers down on the board, we probably could have solved that last puzzle without having to everyone lean around one piece of paper. This is an issue
In the dark.
that I've seen.
In the dark. We had
No,
to
we were in
share
the
flashlights.
room and we had 2 flashlights.
The light room was still so dark I had to squint to see anything.
All right. Well, this is a common trait in escape rooms that normally early on you're all spread out and you each get to do your own thing and just kind of update each other. Mm-hmm. But you kind of bottleneck at the last puzzle. And we had like 10 people in that room. So the more people in there, the more likely you fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of times when I was just not contributing because we would open a room, people much faster than my wobbly rear end charged in. All the furniture was immediately turned upside down, and all the clues immediately found.
I mean, most of the clues. That was a pretty big one that we missed.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty bad. But it was fun. I never did an escape room before. I'm glad we got to do it. I probably will do more escape rooms in the future. They just installed one in my podunk little town, so I'm going to go see what that's like. I do not expect it will be anywhere near as good.
I'm sorry, a podunk little town?
Mm-hmm.
What does podunk mean? I've never heard this word.
I have no idea. It's usually it's a word used to describe a really small, out-of-the-way, poorly equipped town.
Gotcha. You played a game when we were at the KDCon. Not KDCon, the KD meetup.
Yeah, I played Lords of Rock, which was so much fun. In the game, you take on the role of a different pantheon of gods, and then from that pantheon's gods, you build a rock band. Then proceed to tour the mortal realm of Earth to put on Battle of the Bands concerts against the other Pantheon's rock bands in order to woo over followers to worship. To worship you.
Chat is defining what podunk is, and they're basically saying it's a word specifically for a small town. Anyway, sorry. Lords of Rock is a game that I curated for Board Game Bento, and James Valiant, one of the listeners who attended the No Direction meetup, brought that. He picked it up in my booth. He brought it for the event, and then you guys all played it. And I was super glad. My Gen Con kind of was bittersweet because I was at the Blind Ferret booth the whole time, and we were selling mostly Board Game Bento Overstock, which people know Board Game Bento was a subscription box that I used to curate for, which I put a lot of myself into. I spent a lot of time researching the games and doing the math Tetris that was required to get 3 games on budget at the promised value on theme that physically fit into the box. And I liked when I found games that were a little more obscure that I got to share with people. And I got more feedback on those games at Gen Con this year while we were selling the Overstock directly to people. So even though we were selling them at a discount, and even though it's shut down because even though it was successful for a while, it like most subscription boxes, the bubble burst and we had to close down. This was like one last hurrah of Board Game Bento that I got to experience. So bittersweet. Like I said, it would be nice if Board Game Bento was still around with us, but at least I got to see some people enjoying the games, and I got to sell games personally, explaining far more detail than most of these people probably wanted what my thinking was when I included a lot of these games in the box.
Well, at least they were well curated games. It was a very good collection of very cheap games.
Thank you.
And it disappeared. And I was there the very last day, and that shelf was darn near bones.
Yes. So that was a combination of, I think, just we had really good prices for those products. And Ellie, one of the girls that was working at the booth, super dedicated to selling those games. So day one, she looked at the games that didn't sell, and she's like, "What? I need to learn these games. I need to know more about them so that I can sell them." Like, she was extremely dedicated, and she was an asset to have. So she's one of the main reasons that a lot of the games that were slow sellers on day one were selling out by Sunday. What are some of the purchases you made at Gen Con?
Okay, so I got Ryutama, which I've been chasing down for a long time. It is a Japanese role-playing game that has a very different point of view. Basically, you're playing NPCs, or what you would be considered NPCs, in a traditional fantasy RPG, trying to solve big problems. And it's got rule system for traveling and campfire and adventure and cooperative storytelling. It's a really interesting take on role playing that I want to study and learn from, and hopefully get some new skills. The art is also ridiculously good. It's this pencil sketch watercolor aesthetic mixed with like some very vibrant anime influences. So it's a thing that's been on my wish list for a long time. And of course, this was when I finally got to pick up most of the items from the Pathfinder 2nd Edition launch.
Such as?
Well, I got everything, but there are a few products that we will talk about later. So I got Age of Ashes, which I intend to run tomorrow. Actually, yeah, we're putting our first Pathfinder 2nd Edition home game is starting tomorrow with our Session 0. I printed out copies of the player's guide. I have them all bound and ready to give out to everybody. I've got new character sheets that we'll talk about in a minute. I've got all sorts of player aids, and then I made sure to pick up a bunch of accessories to make this easier on myself.
Now, before we move on to the accessories, I also read the Age of Ashes Player's Guide. I read it on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some thoughts because we were concerned about how campaign settings, adventure paths would tie into specifically the background rules. Right. If we have time a little bit later after you talk about the accessories, I would like to go into that a little bit.
Okay, because I have not read that yet.
Oh,
no.
Well, then I can tell you
tomorrow
what to expect.
I intend to read that tomorrow before my players show up. So I got, let's just go down these in order. I've got the GM screen, which is...
Now you say that like there's only one GM screen available.
Yeah, so this is the GM screen I've got. I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen now. So this is the official GM screen. This is the default one. It is a landscape screen. It's a horizontal format screen. It's nice and big and wide and will cover up your side of the table. And it's also nice and short, so you can reach over it easier to get to minis / the rest of the table, and it doesn't block your view from the players as much as a traditional screen was. I love landscape screens. I've been begging Paizo to make a landscape screen since the day the game launched. Now, this is a very good screen, by the way. The inside tables are exactly the tables I always scratched my head about when I was playing Pathfinder 1. Conditions are half the screen.
Okay.
No way around it. Conditions are half the screen. Well, actually, it's just the left panel, and then it kind of... a lot of the rules for conditions bleed onto the right. But, that's a lot more conditions info than we saw on the old screen. But that's because conditions are so much more important in 2nd edition than they were in 1st edition. Then there's the basic actions. You've got those over here in the specialty actions, which is, I imagine, a table I'm going to refer to less and less and less as time goes on. But while I'm learning the system, I appreciate that it's there. The death and dying rules, also known as the thing I look up every single time they matter in Pathfinder 1. Are just now right here, including the chart for treating wounds, because that's going to be used a whole lot. Then, of course, you've got the terrain. I was surprised to see a little bit of info on how you do hero points on here. Then you have the skill actions. Again, something you'll use less and less as you get more familiar with the game, but it's nice to have them referenced because of how intricate this system is now. And then, of course, the chart that would have been taking up most of the pages of the old screen is now just a single column of DCs, because they have made GMing the game a very simple task now with just this one DC chart right in the middle. And then on the right, it's the other things that you want on the screen, like how falling damage works, how hard a wood wall is, things you have to improvise in the middle of play when the players do crazy things, as well as the XP award system, how to build the encounter budget chart, and the treasure chart. So again, things that if you're improvising a game on the fly, you're going to want handy. That's on the right panel. Overall, Overall, it's all the panels that I would have wanted on my screen. In fact, I made my own GM screen for 2nd edition because I didn't have a screen when they sent us the review books. They didn't send me a screen with it. So I used one of my dogmat screens to build one of my own. And that is, and I have every panel I put in my dogmat screen is on that screen. There's a lot more than I put on my dogmat screen there, like the different skills and actions. But all of the other panels, it's so close to what I wanted, I made it before I bought it.
How is the durability, the quality?
It is top-notch quality. It is just as good as the others. It's really thick board stock with high gloss prints all around it. I love this thing. I was planning on just using my custom dogmat screen. I even bought a new one at Gen Con because I had that one for 10 years and it was starting to get cracks in it. 10 years of heavy abuse is fine for a product that I used as frequently as that.
You were talking about the heavy gloss. That is one thing I noticed when you were kind of showing what's what on the screen. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see because it was catching the light. That's mostly just because you're using higher lights than usual.
Also,
right?
yeah, when I'm streaming, I've got a light kit up here. I've got this is not a typical environment. I have no difficulty reading that at all when I'm using it. That's simply because I have like a light kit here lighting up my face for the stream.
People in chat are talking about my mistakes with the DC chart. Yes.
Yes, you made lots of those.
No, I just made the one over and over again.
Yeah, fair point. We were supposed to be fighting DC 15s, and we were up against DC 30s.
No, just the one DC 30. Then after that, I was subtracting 5 when I should have been subtracting 10, because it goes up by 5 at the beginning of the chart. Then it changes intervals later, and I had reversed that and did the math totally wrong. And you guys were just failing left and right. Maybe if you were better. How about that, Perram? Maybe it wasn't me.
No. So
it was definitely me.
Another accessory I picked up, and this will be a much shorter review. I picked up the official hero points. I'm going to put it up on screen so people can see it. But these are those gold coins that they showed off on the stream. You've seen these on the Obsidian Oath stream. They gave us Funbus ones at PaizoCon. They're made by Campaign Coins, the crew that makes those really, really nice in-character gold piece, silver piece, platinum pieces you can use as currency instead of writing things down. And they're also the crew that makes the really, really cool compass we both saw and instantly bought because it's awesome. So I bought 3 sets of them. They come 6 to a pack, $15 retail. And I bought 3 packs so that if I was running a max table and every single person had max hero points, I have enough to put on the table. In reality, you could probably get away with 1 or 2 packs, depending on the size of your group. They have a weight to them. They're really nice and hefty. It's about the size of a quarter, about twice as thick. Really cool carvings. You have to really examine it.
Perram, you've got the starting soon screen up on the screen.
Fixed already.
Thank you.
Okay. So they're about the size of a quarter. They're really intricate. They have a lot of weight to them. They're super nice. I intend to use the crap out of these. I bought a $5 chest at my local craft store to put them in. You can get this chest for $5 on Amazon if you want one just like it. It holds them very easily. And that's what I intend to carry them around in.
So I didn't pick up the hero points. The only one I have is the Funbus one that I got. But I don't have a plan for what I will use as an alternative to the hero points coins. I don't know if I'll just ask people to write it down on the character sheet. I might eventually get these. I'm going to see how naturally a physical product representing hero points is going to come to turn out to be a need at my table.
So the rules for Paizo's official hero points are almost identical to the ones I used in my home games. So what I used in my home games were first clay poker chips. Those nice have a nice weight to them that you see in high-end poker sets. Not the little thin plastic ones that weigh nothing. And that what I did there was I printed off the rules for my hero points on sticker paper and then stuck them to each side, one with a symbol of my campaign and the other with the rules. Eventually, after about 5 or 6 years of using those, the stickers got wore off and they got kind of gummy, so I stopped using those. And then I switched to I bought the about 1 inch round glass beads that were like green and translucent. They're kind of like, a lot of games use them for tokens, but like the bigger ones than the ones you usually see in like in Pokemon or various card games that use them for counters. Those are nice and hefty, and I like the idea is to have a bit of weight so that it's something that when a player receives it, they feel like they've received something important. And I used those for a while, and those cost me a grand total of $1 for a bag of 100.
All right, that sounds more in my budget. But first, we'll start with pencils, writing them down. Then we'll see if we go to something physical. But the hero points, could you remind me what they cost you? Because I remember it being fairly reasonable for something that, like, players are going to max out like 3 hero points, right?
Yeah, that's the max they can have. In practice, I hardly ever see anybody with 3 in the many games I've played so far. Usually, I've seen a lot of people with 2 each, but I haven't seen a whole lot of people with 3 each. And the official ones come 6 to a pack for $15, and that's before any discounts or anything like that.
Okay, so 6 for 15. I would still need 4 or 5 of those packs. No, that's
Wait,
too much.
no, that's way too much. How many people are at your table?
5 generally.
Okay, you need 2 packs and a couple extra, so your Fumbus will get you there.
No, Fumbus is mine.
You need 15 coins to max out a 5-player table, and I maxed out my pack, but that's really not what people should do. I don't think you're ever going to hand out all 3 to all players.
I wonder if it could be like your dues. If you want to join the campaign, you have to provide 3 hero points that will be added to a pool, returned to you at the end of the campaign or whenever you leave. And those will be, communal resources.
These things aren't that expensive.
I am that cheap.
Then I recommend glass beads.
Yes. I already have some glass beads, actually. Once you started talking about them, I was like, oh, I've got all the hero points I need. They're not as fancy, though. And having that one Fumbus one, it's almost taunting me.
See, that originally my plan was to buy 2 packs, and then as the special coins were slowly released across the years, that would get me to my maximum real easily. Because 2 packs is 12, and then you only need 3 more to max out a group. Which, the 12 for a group of 5, I don't think I'm ever going to run out that time, even though I have 18 for a group of 6. But that was my original plan. And then I threw that plan out the window when I saw them at Gen Con. So
it looks like you got the next product up there.
Yeah. So the final product I got, and I'm going to put this up on screen here real quick, but I'm holding it up here, is I got the new condition cards. Because, man, the condition card deck was something we both loved, right?
Yes. The year it came out, in the year in review episode, I was like, this was my product of the year. And you were surprised, but I would say I got more use out of the condition cards than anything other than the core rulebook.
Right. And with conditions meaning so much more in Pathfinder 2, I thought this would be super, super extra awesome, you know?
Yes, I do.
Right. And I imagine it will be super useful. But what they did this time, I'm kind of on the fence about how I feel about this. Okay?
I'm pretty confused about some of the choices. There's a couple I love, though.
So there are 110 in the pack. So I unpacked them. They also have blank spaces on them that you can use to write on. So I sleeved them all in cleared sleeves so that you can use, dry erase, wet erase markers on them to track the things that would go in the boxes. And when you sleeve them, they're a very thick stack. This is 110 cards. Basically, what I found is using this at the table, I have to split it into 2 stacks because it's just kind of unwieldy. And the card sleeves make it extra slippery. But when I tried to use it and just keep it in the box it came in, because it's a side-by-side double box, like Paizo so used to using, the cards were like mixing together and getting out of order. So that made it hard. They come in alphabetical order by default, and that's a good way to keep condition cards in. So you're going to...
Sorry, you had trouble keeping your first edition cards in order?
No, second edition. Okay. Because there's so many more of them, and they put them in a side-by-side box. So there's like half a deck and half a deck up against the side, so they would trade cards as you as they got jostled.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I imagine if you're not going to sleeve them, just get a plastic card box, like a cheap plastic one you can get at any sports store. Probably will take care of your problem. But where I sleeved mine, I went ahead and got a Dragon Shield, like meant for Magic the Gathering kind of collectible card boxes, nice leather one with a felt interior. And when you're all sleeved, I imagine if I play and use these a bunch, this will get easier though. But there's some big changes. Now, on the surface, they're just as super useful as they always were. They're color coded. They
are.
They have icons. They're all in alphabetical order. They have the rules very easily summarized. And then where the stats, where the mechanical differences, there's like a little quick mechanical summary at the bottom of each card in a little box, which is super useful.
Yeah, I've got the immobilized one right here.
Yeah.
In the bottom, it just says can't move.
Yeah.
Then it's got a couple of paragraphs that actually give you all the details about what can't move and can't means you can and can't do mechanically.
Now, if you remember before, the cards were double-sided and they were like related conditions. Usually a less severe version of a more severe condition was on each side. This time they're double-sided again, but the sides are absolutely identical.
Yes.
And every single card. I went through every single card to check, and the only time that changes is the instruction card and the tracker cards, which
we're going to get to the tracker cards. Yeah. But so I was assuming maybe some of them were more rules than you could fit on one side, and those would be different double-sided. But You're saying you looked at every single one. Why did they do that?
Don't know. I'm still trying to figure that, because if they weren't going to do on double side, then I would have preferred a cool back, you know?
Or goblins, again, suffering through those conditions, like an art piece.
Which you do not have. Those goblins are not getting mutilated in this pack. Even though the front box threatens the goblins, they do not end up suffering here. You do get a very useful little minimalist art icon in the upper left, so it makes it real easy to find what you're looking for. But again, you don't get the humor that is flipping through the condition cards and just seeing those poor goblins suffering from every condition. I kind of wish...
These are just less fun.
Yeah, they're useful, and they're going to be more useful, but they're less fun. And then
it's also strange. So last time you got 4 of each,
right?
Now you've got a variable number. You have 4 of a lot of them, but some of them you have 3. Some of them you only have 2. Right. Like here's petrified. You only have 2. Mm-hmm. Maybe you won't have the whole party petrified at one time, but like if you're fighting a Medusa or cockatrice, you might need more than 2 of those cards.
Right, which is honestly making me think about if we're just going to use them as shared references, dividing them into 2 smaller decks, because that might be the best way to handle this.
That makes sense. Sorry, I was looking through. Oh, yeah, here we go. Stupefied. Mm-hmm. No, sorry, I was looking for one to see if there was one that had, because they've got these boxes at the bottom that sometimes you can fill in information. Mm-hmm. I was just looking for one that might have that variable number that you could have had a different one per play. Anyway, it doesn't matter what I was doing. It was dumb. Can we talk about the duration tracker and the condition?
Yes, that's what I'm going to talk about next. So the next thing they have is they all come with this tracker card, which is this one has on one side tracking in terms of rounds, so you can track how long it's going to be in this condition. And on the other side, it just has the condition values, basically just numbers 1 through 10. And the idea is that you put this at the bottom of the card with the card raised up to whatever value or duration it's at, so that you can just slide the card down to tick it down. Now, when they're in sleeves, they stick together, and that's super useful. I don't know how prone they're going to be to bumpage if they're not in sleeves and don't have that nice little vacuum seal going on for them. And I just dropped all my cards all across my desk because those sleeves are extra slidey right now. So I'm going to have to sort that later. That's going to get in the way of the stream.
So I do like these duration trackers and condition values. These are the ones that I wish weren't double-sided, though, because they give you 6 of each, which was a good number when I first thought it was just a single-sided thing. When I realized it was double-sided and that you might need both sides for a single condition occasionally, not having one per player feels like an oversight.
Yeah. But overall, I'm actually happy with the product, but it's just like, if this would be again, product of the year if we hadn't seen this done better before.
Right. And you know what? One thing that's better is that the rules are all here. Whereas condition cards in first edition, some of them like grappled and invisibility were summarized with some rules left off with no indication that the card doesn't have all the rules. Mm-hmm. Whereas these, it's so much more text-based. It's so much more about getting the rules down that these are more useful. It's just like the double-sidedness is confusing. The variable number of cards in the deck is confusing, and the lack of goblins makes it less fun. Yeah. So I'm sure I'm going to get just as much use out of these cards as I did the first edition condition cards. And it's just not the standout product that the first edition.
In fact, you're going to get more use because conditions are so important.
So I was surprised you were so high on the condition section of the game master. Of the GM screen, because I remember it went from being the most useful part of my game mastery, my GM screen in first edition, to a completely overlooked and ignored section once the condition cards came out. And the fact that condition cards and GM screen both came out at the same time this time means I was surprised that the conditions got so much space.
Well, I think that most people, like, I think this is still going to be a popular product, but I don't think this is going to be a product a lot of people buy automatically. Like, even though it's super cool, everybody that runs a game, okay, not everybody, but most people that get into a role-playing game know to buy a GM screen, or at least know to consider buying a GM screen if it's for them, because it's so iconic. Condition cards, that's a newish thing on the block. It was really useful in Pathfinder. They knocked it out of the park there. Some other games have copied it over the years, but that's not as automatic or iconic, and so I think they just can't assume the players have these.
I think I would sooner recommend people pick up the condition cards than the GM screen, especially because there's so many high-end GM screens that are out there, and actually medium and low-end GM screens that are a little more flexible and or just a little cooler in design, that you don't necessarily need the Paizo one. I think that these are going to be more useful to any group, and I would sooner recommend getting the condition cards, even with the complaints that I had about it, than the GM screen, which admittedly I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the GM screen. I thought I was just going to have that as a collector's piece and then use my own solutions, but after seeing how well done it is and how good the art is, and how well organized it is, I'm either going to do one of two things. I'm going to use it, or I'm going to do what I already did and buy the PDF of a thing I already bought a physical product of. And I already did that. And then basically use the printouts of those modified to be into one of my other GM screens, like the 6-panel folding one that's miniature.
Is there a reason you didn't get this with your subscription?
My subscription just sort of wasn't. There was just a bump with my subscription when it came with the accessory line. I really don't know what happened there. This will not be a problem in the future, but there was definitely, I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure it was Paizo's fault, but the
you are completist.
Yes.
And there is more than one GM screen.
Yes, there is a portrait GM screen, which I may or may not buy.
Is that the website exclusive?
Yes, the website exclusive one. And remember, I am completionist for Pathfinder, but that only includes books.
Oh.
So I have to get all the covers of the books and all the books. But it doesn't obligate me to get... But my completionist stops there. I don't try to get every miniature. I don't try to get every accessory. For instance, the combat pad that a lot of people love, I don't like using.
And so you didn't get the new one?
Yeah, I didn't get the new one. Now, lately I've used it in a few PFS games, and it's warming up on me, but I still prefer my tents on the top of my GM screen. It's just easier to rearrange things. And
all right, 10:30, so we've still got a lot on this outline. Where would you like to go from here?
Let us talk about the other accessories that are super needed for gameplay.
All right. You made an interesting post earlier today Is that what you were reaching for? Looks like you've just changed.
Well,
What you were
there are two. I just put what I was reaching for was just putting away my cards. But there are
All
two
right.
accessories. I think they're both worth it, and we'll go with the easier one. So, did you tour much of the floor at Gen Con? Did you get a chance to walk around a little bit?
A bit,
A very little bit, huh?
unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I only got a couple of hours really myself, so I understand when you're super busy. But one of the things I've been noticing over the past year or so, and especially at the con, and I think a lot of this is that a lot of Chinese manufactured dice, where the game has become, where role playing has sort of become hype. There's a lot of Chinese manufacturing coming in to make very high end or premium, basically quote unquote premium dice that we used to have to pay a much bigger fortune for. If you remember things like Dwarven Stone and etc., where those were like $200 etc. for a thing of gemstone dice.
I remember.
Yeah, but now the prices of those premium dice sets are coming down to merely outrageous, not insane. Like you're talking $40 to $100 will get you some really nice looking dice, like metal dice for 35, $40. Many of the booths there. Gemstone dice at like $70 plus for full size ones, and cheaper if you were willing to go for the little 15mm sets. I'm seeing a lot more premium dice available, and I'm noticing a lot more people showing up at my PFS games using premium dice. And what side effect is I'm noticing more and more people coming to my games with just one set of dice, not the bag full of dice that of our youths. Like the Crown Royal bag stuffed completely full of plastic crack just doesn't seem to be as common anymore.
Let's see. I know that people are definitely, so people that I know are going for smaller, more specific sets of dice. I've got a couple of people in my groups that purchase like me, which is buying a couple of sets that are character specific, and that way you get the pretty set, and then you get the extra dice that go along with that pretty set, so that you have everything that character needs. So like if I play a cleric, or when I was playing an oracle, I had a lot of d8s in the Doreen color. So I haven't switched over to high end yet. I do know a couple of people that have gotten some high end dice, and a lot of them just use them as shelf ornaments.
Mm-hmm. Well, ever since I kind of fallen into the trap myself. This is a very nice dice box that Bannerless Builds has provided me.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah, just full disclosure, I work with Bannerless Builds. I do the social media stuff for them, the communications.
Yep.
And I arranged for Perram to get that, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, as a birthday present.
Mm-hmm. And I use it for a set of dice I picked up last year at Gen Con, which were Aquamarine. I know that Stephen Glicker has the same set from Real for Combat, and I've seen Jason Bowman use these on his stream, so I know it's a pretty popular set of dice.
And just to be clear, it's not Aquamarine the color.
No, it's made out of Aquamarine. Stephen, what do you think of your Aquamarine dice? Speak up in chat.
He says, yep.
I love these dice. They have such a weight to them, and this is why I like metal ones too. And they have a weight to them. They feel significant, and so when you roll them, they make a nice big thunk. So I've forced myself to use dice trays with these because I don't want to chip them or scratch them. But I just love them, and they feel some. And when you've used these for a while, and then you grab a set of traditional plastic dice, they feel weightless. And yeah, dice trays required if you're going to use big, heavy dice, especially if you're playing on somebody else's table. Thankfully, dice trays are super easy to get these days. $5 for a valet tray, and you've got a really great portable dice tray. This Bannerless Builds thing that you managed to arrange for me to get is I put a piece of felt in the bottom of the dice tray and use it as my dice tray, and it's wonderful. And it just, I can get it. I get why people are doing it. Dungeon Novice is pointing out Cube Workshop has these amazing dice that they sell. And those are plastic, and even those are amazing. So I kind of get it, but it does mean I'm. But when you break a set or lose a set of those, if you look at my candy jars full of dice, you'll see when I've lost a set. When I have a really cool Q Workshop set, but man, at PaizoCon I lost that D4, so all these really cool dice just get sacrificed to the jar.
Oh yeah, that set's useless now.
Yeah, I can't play with that as a set. It just goes into the mix where you just grab your. It joins the one of many hundreds and hundreds of D20s to be used whenever somebody forgets a set or needs to roll a really big fireball.
You made the right choice. The dice that I've been looking at for a long time are the Polyhero dice. Remember them? They are the ones that are shaped specific. So there's the Wizard set where you've got the D20 looks like a crystal ball. The D6 looks like a fireball. There's a D2 that looks like a magic, a spell book, which is the greatest D2 that exists.
Yeah, I have all of their dice. I was part of their Kickstarters. They were wonderful dice, except they're very fragile. And I have the fighter set I have had to throw away because so many of the dice from that set have just cracked or split in trying to roll them. The mage set was much better. None of those have exploded on me. But they're more of those are more shelf dice to me than roll dice because they just don't roll practically.
Yeah, a lot of people in chat were just talking about how they're not good.
Yeah, they're real pretty and they're real expensive.
Are they real expensive?
Yeah, like a full set of those is like $35-$40.
Oh yeah. No, $29 gets you 2 sets of Polyhero dice.
Well, they're cheaper now.
Yeah.
That's not what they were when I got them.
No, sorry. That was the Kickstarter price. It's $30 a set.
Yeah. But hey, dice are cool.
How many sets of dice do you have?
I don't know. Hundreds. I know if we're counting dice, it's easily in the thousands.
Wow.
Because individual dice, because I have multiple jars filled with dice and a 6-slot candy dispenser absolutely packed to capacity with dice, as well as a pitcher full of dice that I have yet to home. And that doesn't count my individual sets that are kept in their containers, and those are there's easily 100 individual sets in existence. I just have so many dice.
Weight of all these dice.
I have so many dice. I love dice. I buy dice at every opportunity. If I visit a game store for any reason, I will walk out of there with a set of dice.
See, now I do appreciate the policy of you don't go into a game or you don't leave a game store that you've gone to for the first time without buying something. And yeah, dice are a good purchase, good, cheap, always useful purchase. I just did not realize you had that many sets.
Yeah. I mean, I've been collecting them since I've been playing. I still have my very first set of dice. It's kept separate. But ever since those days, every time I get a chance to get dice, I do. And man, it's been, soon it'll be 30 years of role playing.
So I recently found my first set of dice, and I forget if I talked about it on the podcast, but I definitely posted to No Direction's Facebook page asking, what should I do with these? Should I commemorate them in some way? Should I bronze them? Should I mount them? Somebody told me to just save them for Scarlet, which ended up being the plan. But I picked up something at Gen Con that might supersede that. This is a wand of dice. If people can't tell, it is 7 sets of dice, a purple set, 2 blue sets, green set, yellow, orange, and red. And I don't know, it really struck me. It was at the Space Unicorn / Gerbil Bridge booth, neither of which are role-playing games. Both of them are board games. One of them is not available yet, although I'm super looking forward to when it is available. I'll talk about why. So it's the Space Unicorn game, which the board is a 3D cupcake, and the cards are chrome on the back, and you put them chrome side up. It's a chromatic rainbow, and it creates a bridge going up the cupcake that you move your space unicorn, and when you land on a bridge, or when you land on a card, you flip it over, and that is the encounter, basically. Super cool visual. It's a very cute looking game that was previewed last year at Gen Con and then was going to go to Kickstarter. They found out that there were different options for production, and so that delayed it. And so now it's going to Kickstarter soon. So instead, I picked up Guinea Pig Bridge there because we have a guinea pig, and it's a game that I could play with the girls. And just for whatever reason, they had these dice wands, the rainbow dice wands, that totally caught my eye. So now, even though these are extra small and therefore probably less safe for the girls to have, these are the dice that I expect to be with the girls' first sets.
Well, hopefully when they're old enough to use them, they're old enough not to choke on them.
Well, you're always going to be old enough to choke on them. It's about them being old enough to know not to choke on them.
Good point. And that brings us up to the other accessory I'm going to need when I'm putting together first-time tables. Because tomorrow, Age of Ashes. Coming up on Saturday, our very first PFS Chapters Pathfinder 2 game. So we're going hard into Pathfinder 2 all at once. I'm going to be needing to teach a whole bunch of people to play. We're going to be making a ton of characters. And for that, you need a character sheet.
Yes, and apparently the character sheet that Paizo has provided is not satisfactory for a lot of people. It is probably one of the most universally negatively received items from second edition. I don't understand, but you do, I believe.
Okay, so I don't want to bash on their character sheet because I recognize that they were trying to do something bold and interesting and different with this character sheet. And, it doesn't land with everyone. A lot of it is that it has some interesting color choices. A lot of that character sheet is dominated by the brown from the logo. Now, it is so much so that in that they put out a printer-friendly one real fast. And I don't remember them doing that before real fast. So I think even they kind of recognized that the color scheme that they chose wasn't appealing to everybody. It matches a lot of the theming of the core book. That blue we talked about being so out of place makes a prominent appearance in the character sheet. And it's got a lot of symbology. The bulk, it looks like a backpack. The armor space looks like a set of leather armor, or maybe it's a shield. And there's the perception is a magnifying glass. Well,
I didn't notice that one.
Let's just say I wanted a different solution to this problem. So, like many other people, I have made my own character sheets. And it's worth noting that I was so motivated to do this, I took time out of my very busy pre-Gen Con schedule to do about 3 hours of graphic design work to put this character sheet together. Also, I wanted it to be landscape because I love landscape character sheets. Why do I like landscape character sheets? Because it saves room at the table. There's
cool.
Yeah. Okay. Please measure your body from left to right. It's probably 1.5 feet, right?
I don't know.
Okay. So your body.
I'm going to say 2 feet.
Your body is wider than a sheet of paper in any orientation. That's how much lateral space you will take up at a game table.
Okay.
What you have control over is how much horizontal space you'll be taking up. How much the distance between you and the battle mat or the center of the table is something you do have a choice over. And instead of having 11 inches, you can have 8.5 inches. So it saves that 3 inches per player by just turning that sheet sideways.
Okay. Valid argument.
Yeah. And I like it also because it's different. It's the one piece of paper that will stand out amongst all the sheets of paper tossed at the table. So it's real easy to see what's the character sheet and what's the character notes and what's the monster stat block I printed off.
So your character sheet has gotten a lot of positive reaction.
I did not expect that.
No offense to you. Mm-hmm. I don't see it as that much better than the Paizo created character sheet. Apparently, I am very easy to please when it comes to character sheets because there are people with strong opinions, and yours seems to be getting the most praise.
Yeah, so I'm holding it up here. I'm going to pull up a picture of it on the stream
The layout,
sheet,
format.
the layout. So it's a landscape one. I went with a parchment design inspired by the old Forgotten Realms Emma sheets. Really, is kind of where I was trying to build it off of. If you remember the Emma's Forgotten Realms 3.5 sheets from way back in the day.
I don't, but go on.
Okay, and when Paizo put out their playtest ones, they also looked like they were inspired by Emma's sheets, so which is why I like those playtest ones too. So that's why I went back to the bubbles, and then I designed a sheet that looked like that. It's nothing real special. It's a lot of basic browns and simple boxes and simple stuff. I tried to keep the layout very similar to the original sheets as far as the structure goes, so that so that players that I was teaching and studied the sheet examples in the book wouldn't be completely lost. But I just sort of tried to simplify the graphics, simplify the color scheme, and make it look more traditional. It's not a revolutionary sheet. I'm surprised that so many people are latching onto it. Our stats on our website have it outpacing every blog we have put out this month, and we have put out some doozies. So lots of people are downloading it, and so I'm glad they're enjoying it, and I hope my players enjoy it. I just made this because I wanted to use it. I didn't intend for this to take off, which is the story of every single thing I do.
F3 Cube says the simplicity and clean design is what makes it awesome.
Yeah. It's not taking any chances. It didn't do the brave things Paizo's sheet did. It's, in fact, a coward sheet.
You recently put out a printer-friendly version, and then you added a 4th spell page today.
Yep. I put a couple of spell pages so that you could print out as much spells as you needed to. I made a printer-friendly version that doesn't have a background. You can print that in grayscale, and it'll print real easy and not eat up a lot of ink. Or what I actually intend to do myself, now that I made the printer-friendly version, is I'm going to go buy parchment paper from my...
Ooh.
And then print the printer-friendly version on the parchment paper. And
That's
it'll be
cool.
Real parchment sheets.
Are there any additional pages coming?
I'm going to make at least... There's a couple of pages that are coming for sure. I intend to do a formulas and crafting page one because that was requested, and the other one I'm actively working on right now is a companion sheet. If people have any other ideas or requests, please let me know what you want. I'm just playing a lot of this by ear, trying to cater to the needs of my players, and now I guess the needs of everybody emailing me about them, which are many.
I've heard form fillable is in the works.
Form fillable is in the works. Luis has volunteered to at least see if he can do it, which I will. If I hope he can. If not, I'll be teaching myself how to do it. I know a lot of people like form fillable sheets. I prefer pencil and paper myself, which is why I didn't go straight to it. But one way or another, this thing will become form fillable.
Vanessa is asking for an action list sheet.
An action listing sheet. Oh, an action sheet. Huh. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I already have an action block format. I can just copy that again and again and again onto a sheet.
Yeah, that makes sense because you can get actions from multiple sources. So it's not like you would go to your feat page for some actions, and then there would be some you'd have to go to the rule book, like combat maneuvers. Yeah, I think that's a very clever addition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then of course I want to get this done, but of course I have other Perram branded things that I'm working on that needs more attention.
Which you have no further information about?
The thing you think I'm working on. I don't have a release date. I'm still trying to get a source of data so that I can make this easy. But the thing that makes the most sense for me to make is still intended to be made. This was just something I could kill real fast and get out there.
All right, Perram, we are winding down. I guess there's a couple more things we can hit before it's time to wrap things up.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is that there was probably the only product that I saw at the Paizo booth that caught me off guard was the Legendary Adventures preview pack.
Yeah, so I'm surprised this is just... My big surprise is that this got any sort of special branding. Because, WizKids has been making Pathfinder Minnows for a while now. but they seem to be doing a lot of work on the special branding for this one. Is it stuck on the character sheet image, gang?
Yes, it is.
Hold on. That's not supposed to happen. I'm going to fix that. Sorry, 1 minute. There it goes. There it goes, gang. It's slow loading. And there we go. But these looked really good. I almost bought these at the convention, but I put that in the I'll order this later pile. Because it has the new goblin art, the new hobgoblin art, and you know how I love me my bugbears. It's got some bugbears.
It's funny. The orcs are the ones that stood out for me.
The orc looks real cool. There's a couple of orcs. They do look real cool. But
one of them's called the Orc Charger. He's got like heavy armor from the waist up, but lean, well, basically bare legs from the waist down. Yeah. He's probably got some kind of loincloth action going on, but it's a very aggressive pose, and it's an intimidating miniature. Yeah. So it's a set that WizKids put out. It's 8. They're calling it sneak peek miniatures from their upcoming Pathfinder Battles Legendary Adventures line, which is it's an interesting selection because it's a couple of goblins, a couple of hobgoblins, a couple of orcs, 1 elf, and 1 halfling.
Right. Well, I know with the halflings, they kind of reconfigured their look a little bit to make them look less like kids and more like... They look very halfling, but it's like a different take on halfling than I'm used to seeing. And so I can see that. The elf, I'm just real confused about because this looks like Elfman from DC Comics.
I mean, that's a selling point for me, but it definitely does stand out as the odd. Like everyone else looks like they're just hanging out in the woods, and then this guy feels like he's, at an elven palace defending the king.
Right. It was cool though. This is they also previewed a bunch of. They also previewed like a cool blue dragon that's going to be coming in the set soon. I'm going to see if I can get that pulled up here in a minute.
Yeah, there's an aboleth, there's kobolds.
Yeah, there's like lots of cool stuff that they intend to show off. It all looks like it's going to be cool. What's that?
Looks like the preview pack is almost all repaints. The elf actually looks like the only one from this preview image that is not a repaint. So, now I kind of regret not getting the preview set.
You can still get the preview set. You can still order it.
Maybe I will.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the ones I'm showing you on screen, this is what they looked like at the booth. This is the repaints that I saw. Not the ones that are on the actual image. I might have that wrong, but this one I'm showing on screen right now, which is on the blog, I think that's what they looked like.
Okay, so the halfling was blonde and the goblins were wearing the lighter armor?
Yeah, I might be wrong on that, and the orc has the bronze armor instead of the steel armor.
I gotta say, these do look like repaint colors. These look like they were trying to do something different than the obvious, whereas the ones that I thought, and the ones that are linked on the preview pack product page, those look like the more obvious colors. So... there might be a mistake with the image there. And I don't remember specifically all the colors. I only glanced at the product while I was at the Paizo booth.
Yeah. And here's the really cool blue dragon. If nothing else, I want that blue dragon. The kobolds don't look like the new kobold art.
What are you talking about?
That does not look like the new kobold art.
Let me look at it again. Doesn't it?
No, their faces are longer. They have longer horns.
You're right.
Yeah. These do not look like kobold sharks.
I mean, the green one especially. The red one, I would say, is fairly close. The blue one, too.
Donato is pointing out that they look like the inside Bestiary images, not the cover Bestiary images.
Oh, okay. So maybe there's a little more variety to what kobolds look like now.
And Noah the Shark, no, this is not a Beyond episode. There will be a Beyond episode soon. This is a traditional No Direction, a Pathfinder
that's
episode.
Because the title below the video still says Create Demi-Planet.
Oh, oops. I'm so sorry, gang. I will fix that. I forgot to fix that on the launch. I am sorry.
So yeah, this is our Gen Con review episode.
Yeah, we will do a Create Demi-Planet soon. That's a series of episodes we have a lot of fun doing. And our planet is turning into a really strange place, by the way. It's full of space elves doing laser wild hunts.
There's this is probably something we should have covered in the news, and I do want to talk about this before we get to the shoutouts. It's Knights of Everflame, the Pathfinder Geek and Sundry show.
I have not watched it.
Episode. Okay, so first episode aired exclusive to Geek and Sundry last week, and now it's on the Geek and Sundry YouTube page. Mm-hmm. So the first episode is like 3-4 hours long. It's much longer than I was expecting it to be, and it starts off really quick in just like Jason Bullman saying, "Hi, I'm Jason Bullman. This is our game. Here's our players," and they each name themselves, and it's like, well, that covered that. I don't know who these people are, but it got us into the game really quickly. And my early favorite is Omelette. I'm curious, once you do get a chance to watch it, Perram, who your favorites are. Something that we'll probably follow up on in the near future. And if this didn't come out right at Gen Con, right at the release of second edition, it would probably get a whole episode dedicated to it. The fact is, we've had Jason Bullman on the show 3 times already this year, twice in the last 2 months. So at some point, we will go back and give some more love to Knights of the Everflame, because this is a coup for Paizo to get this much coverage on a more mainstream platform. But as far as the very hobby-specific platform that we've got a lot of other things that have our attention. This is a second edition game, though, and that is one thing that becomes very clear when they're explaining the rules. And the players, most of them seem to be novices, so this is a good opportunity for Jason to explain the game as they play it without it being bogged down by the rules. It is still mostly about the narrative.
Yeah. I want to watch it so badly. I did watch the preview stream they did, and it looked highly entertaining. But again, it hit like literally while I was in travel for Gen Con, so me watching it just was not in the cards. Also, it's on Geek and Sundry's channel, and that meant I either had to catch it live on Twitch or their pay service.
No, it's on YouTube now.
It is now a week late. They have a week,
a week's grace period for the pay service. But I was expecting it to be hour-long episodes. You have the pay service? Well, then you have no excuses.
It's part of VRV, I think, which is like this Crunchyroll merged with Geek and Sundry merged with with Cartoon Network. It's a really weird streaming service down here in the States.
All the stuff Legendary owns?
Maybe. I know that I get to watch Steven Universe on it, as well as anime that I really like Cat on Head. Cat on Head's great. And then I get to watch like the Geek and Sundry Relics and Reliquaries. It was on there.
I'm not familiar with that one. I was a big fan of The Flog when Felicia Day was the creative head behind Geek and Sundry. Since she sold it to Legendary, I actually found out I'd unsubscribed. I didn't even remember unsubscribing, but I guess I just stopped watching any of their content until Knights of the Everflame hit their YouTube channel.
And also there's some very recent controversy with Will Wheaton suing them for lack of payment, so I do not have the details. Which has opened up the
floodgate of people that didn't have the kind of influence of Will Wheaton saying like, yeah, they've kind of been bad to creators, which is worth saying, and it is unfortunate timing for Paizo, who has nothing to do with this controversy. But if anything, they're on the opposite end of it.
Right. But also, we're a journalistic entry who has not done due diligence to research the claims yet. So we're just very, very brief touch, and we have no way and have made no effort to verify any of that.
So it's allegations. That's all we know.
Yep. We just know the same thing y'all know.
Perram, before we go to shout-outs. Yeah, no, shout-outs. Why did I think that was wrong for a second? So before we go to shout-outs, how was your Gen Con 2019?
Exhausting. High energy. It kind of disappeared in a hurry. I will say I'm very proud of the work we did and the success that has led to. I know this was one of the most watched episodes we've had in a long time. So thank you all for tuning in. We very much appreciate the audience.
This one is?
Yeah. Gosh.
We had some major audiences for all the lead up.
Oh, yeah. It's been great lately. Man, it's been good to No Direction. So thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate all the new fans we're getting. You all are fantastic. We love you all. Um, but I will be honest, I did not have much fun at that Gen Con. It was work, 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 with a few brief games that were fun. And I kind of hope to, like, it's to the point that I'm looking at side conventions just so that I can go be a geek again and that I won't have to work.
Well, we've hinted at the idea of a No Direction Con at some point in the future. And honestly, I feel like we should do it just so that you could go and be at a con. Like, just
That's not how
what
that'll
do you
work,
want?
though. that'll be us working and making a con happen and meeting fans and being awesome, and it'll be great and wonderful. But I'm giving like PAX Unplugged some side eye right now.
All right. Well, I hope that you find the cons that did to you, to your life, what Gen Con used to, because like you really are giving a lot to the network, and it's very much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But hey, I have got a good team that put in a bunch of hours as well. I didn't do this alone. I couldn't have done this alone. Thank you all so much for everything you all do.
So we'll be right back to wrap things up with shout outs.
Be right back.
Wrap-ups and shout-outs. Wrap-ups and shout-outs. Wrap-ups. Wrap-ups and shout-outs.
And we're back.
Thank you for joining us for episode 205 of No Direction, the No Direction Network's Pathfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast. Before we go, a couple of things we want to bring people's attention to. One last Gen Con item, at least, let me just go over this. All right, maybe a couple more Gen Con items. One of them is the bag situation, we'll call it. I don't know if I'm comfortable saying the name of the individual involved, but something that was brought to my attention early on in Gen Con is that someone who was attending Gen Con for the first time had their bag stolen. And that this had not only the books that they had just picked up for second edition, but also their chronicle sheets for all of their Pathfinder Society characters. So those are irreplaceable. Their laptop with personal pictures that was irreplaceable. And that hit me very hard because of the recent computer problems I had and the prospect that I might lose some irreplaceable personal pictures. And they posted about it to the Pathfinder Society board or the Pathfinder board. And one of the things that I really appreciated about the post was how positive it was about the people that had helped, that the Pathfinder Society group that had immediately started helping them, making sure that whatever could be replaced was, that apparently all of the books that they purchased were replaced. And a lot of people really started to offer their support and their sympathy, and were trying to do whatever they could in a situation that otherwise made a lot of us feel kind of helpless and sad and sympathetic. I want to give a specific shout out to Matt Belanger, one of my former Private Sanctuary co-hosts and someone that I've been gaming with for a long time, because he offered to cover the financial burden to pay for all of the items that this person had lost.
Wow.
Specifically because Gen Con meant a lot to Matt, and the idea that somebody's first Gen Con would be such a terrible experience really got to him and kind of broke his heart. And then luckily by the last day, the bag was found. We don't know what happened to it. We can't know what happened to it. No one ever came forward and said they stole it or accidentally grabbed it. We just know that the bag was returned and all the assets were in place. And this person was extremely thankful and stayed positive throughout the whole thing.
Right.
So
we found out we found out very quickly that they were one of our bigger fans of the network. So that kind of hit me in the gut that one of our crew was suffering.
Sure. But I would say that this was actually the highlight of my Gen Con. This arc of just like the positivity shown throughout, and that it did pay off, and the community coming together. Like it had the happiest ending it could possibly have, and just the entire journey was really positive and reinforcing about what an awesome community we are a part of.
Yeah. I mean, Matt was offering what Matt was offering. Paizo had actually already replaced all the products he bought. They were able to pull up his account and just like give him copies of that stuff again. It's like everybody really came together. I was only able to monitor this through basically messages in their own chat rooms while I was running streams, and it was like went from "oh no, that's terrible" to "aw, look at everybody come together" to "oh, thank God it has a happy ending."
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm an optimistic person, and I did not expect it to end happily at all. I thought we'd reached peak happiness when what could be replaced was, but then for the irreplaceable things to be found and returned, that really just polished the whole thing off. A couple other things I want to shout out to. Brian Lane put together the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Encounter Planner. This is a Google Doc that I'm going to share the link to in the chat, and it will be in the show notes. It's a useful tool that takes the new system and how encounters are run, which is fairly straightforward, but also very different from first edition. So it might take some getting used to for GMs. And this is the exact kind of tool that you need to make the leap from first edition, from what we're used to second edition, because this is also not how it was in the playtest. So this is really brand new content for us. He's got a couple of tabs and instruction, overall campaign, so that you can track when your PCs should be leveling up and the kind of encounters they should be facing, and ways to vary that with the description on the side. It's actually an incredibly thoughtful tool that he has put together that, as far as I know, just came out on launch day. So I don't know how long he had the rulebook before he put this together, but this is the kind of thing that I love, the kind of tools that we saw a lot of early on in Pathfinder First Edition, and then towards the end, all the ground had been covered. So to see new things come up and to see people stepping up as members of the community that are providing these kind of useful tools to the rest of us, always appreciated. And this one is something that I plan to put to use fairly early on.
Yeah, I've already been playing with it. It's really cool. It was just really interesting to see all that math just instantly calculate itself out. Thank you so much.
All right. Lucas Servideo, friend of the show and someone who is a major force behind Pathfinder Academy and, getting Pathfinder, teaching it to kids, teaching it to younger players and the next generation Pathfinder players, as usually put together the Pathfinder and Starfinder coloring book, as well as character journals. He keeps a couple aside for my kids, which I always very much appreciate. And he also gave the copies of the journals to all the members of the network that were on the team at PaizoCon. Gen Con. These are fun character sheets with a lot of space in the back for notes, and it's got cool art on the front, and it's just a souvenir as much as it is a useful tool. So I want to thank him for that, but I also want to bring attention to he's already done a call for contribution for next year's coloring book. So he's saying that if anyone is interested, and trust me, you don't have to be a talented artist to contribute. I was planning on contributing because it's been too long that I've been gaining the benefits from these coloring books without ever putting anything into it themselves. So send, if you're interested, email pfsnorthshorema@gmail.com and let Lucas know what you're interested in, and he will take it from there.
I'm always so impressed with the work that he does with these. I look forward to seeing them every single year.
Also, this is not something to shout out as much as something that I was just gobsmacked by. He had this really cool, he was gifted a really cool piece of jewelry that has technology integrated in it. And it basically, he could scan his brooch and it has his character sheet and notes about it in there digitally. It's something that I don't remember the specifics of the technology about, but I hope that he goes into detail about it somewhere online, because the more he explained how cool this thing he had was, the cooler it became.
Oh, speaking of technology cool things I saw, I want to shout out to this just because it was a very cool thing I saw at Gen Con. And it was LED D20s that could be synced with a phone app, or could be synced via Bluetooth. And what you could do with that was it Bluetoothed the results to Roll20 to know what you rolled with a physical dice, as well as you could tell it to glow any color you wanted, and it just felt like you were rolling a normal dice.
Nice. Oh, by the way, Lucas is in chat. He says the Starfinder symbol with NFC tech in it.
Near field communication. Yeah, it's the technology used so that two electronic devices could talk to each other at close proximity.
And scanning it brings up a GM card.
That's sweet. All right.
A couple more shoutouts.
Yes.
We got a lot of shoutouts. I'm glad. Sometimes it feels like we get to the shoutouts and we've got nothing to say, so we throw out a Kickstarter or whatever. But no, there's a lot of things that we have very specific purposes for shouting out to, most of which is that we're appreciative. I want to shout out to Roll for Combat. their new Fall of Plaguestone actual play podcast has launched. The first 2 episodes are already available, and it features not just members of the Roll for Combat cast, including the GM Stephen Glicker, but the No Direction Networks. Vanessa and Lauren are both players in the game. They are a lot of fun, and so far I've listened to both episodes. I am engaged. I don't care that it's spoiling Fall of Plaguestone. This is a fun actual play podcast that I plan on listening all the way through to. I want to see where this goes.
They're doing a really great job. The V and Lauren are great. The Roll for Combat crew is great, and even Stephen. I'm used to playing under Steve. I've played under Steven, and I've listened to him GM a lot, and he is just like really in it with this one. He's so energetic and doing voices. It's a really great cast. You all should check it out. It's something special.
Perram, do you have any other shoutouts?
No, I'm shouted out.
All right, well, then there is one last thing, and that is going to be a request.
Oh.
We are in a new place for the first time in a couple years. What?
That's like a request. I'm doing too much. Oh, not me. Great.
Perram, I want you to come here and paint my walls.
No!
A fresco.
I don't think I can. I like just getting a visitation. I don't know if I can get a work, whatever the equivalent of a work.
Oh, I'm not paying you.
Oh, then that's fine.
No, I want to talk to our audience. So, first of all, many of you are new. But second of all, we went from covering first edition to the transition period to playtest. And now we're in like a content-rich era where we would like to do things like spend episodes dedicated to each individual class, where we've got several books to review in just the next couple of months, a lot of staff that we want to interview. So we need an idea of what direction you would like No Direction to go in this new age of Pathfinder coverage that we have now entered into. So find us on our Discord, find us on Facebook. Perram will give you more specifics about where to find us there. And just let us know, like, if you were helming the ship, or what are some of the things you expect us to do that maybe we haven't thought of, because there is a lot of stuff directly in front of us and we're parsing it out, and we want to know what you think we should prioritize.
Servant Laureate saying daily Pathfinder 2 streams. Oh my god, no.
Okay, so
we can't do that.
But you know what? Thank you for contributing the idea. We will think about it. We've already thought about it. The answer is no. But keep those ideas coming.
No, but you'll probably see an increase in content coming from us because there's just so much to cover and so much excitement.
So, Perram, where can people find out? Where can people find us? Where can people get in touch with us?
Okay, well, you can get in touch with us at nodirectionpodcast.com, where you'll find links to all of our other great things, including our Discord server, the most chill Discord server in the Asterisk Finder universe and community, Pathfinder, Starfinder, General Geekdom. If you want to hang out with the crew from No Direction and just sort of, and a bunch of fans that love their games and love to chat with each other, do get in there. It's the one way you can get in touch with us just about any given time, as well as our many fans who are just the best. Just really the best. There's also the Instagram /No Direction podcast handled by Dungeon Novice, who our Discord wouldn't be the same without Dungeon Novice in it. We'd love having him around. He's been doing a killer job with the Instagram. We also have Twitter.
You know what? I don't think we give him enough credit. That Instagram is not run by us. It is a fan-run Instagram account that, like, the summaries that he attaches to the articles, it gives you more depth than what I usually put up on the Facebook page, which tries to be just pithy and to the point. So if you are not following us on Instagram, you're not following us. You'd be following him. And you'll get a different experience than what we're doing on the other social media platforms.
Also, if you want to watch us in video format, you can do so here at twitch.tv/No Direction, where you'll find our video archive and our live shows when we go live. We also put our videos on YouTube at youtube.com/No Direction Show. And of course, our Twitter account that lets you know about when we're going live and when the cool things are happening much faster than anything else. And that's at twitter.com/No Direction. Also, if you wish to support us and help keep these shows going, especially as demands and commitments increase, we very much appreciate all of our patrons that keep us going on our Patreon. You can go find the link at nodirectionpodcast.com or patreon.com/No Direction.
Perram, there's one shout out I want to go back to Aaron Scholes of Scholes Woodworks.
Oh
provided us
my
both with a
gosh, that
cool,
was
custom,
so awesome!
no direction fridge magnet. I don't have mine because it's right now on my fridge, but if you go to my Facebook page, you can check it out. In fact, if you go to the Instagram, then Dungeon Novice also tracked down this picture and shared it there. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a fun, unique gift that I really appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, Perram, I'm looking around me. There's 2 or 3 other things that I wish I had time for. Can we do like a 5-minute post show after the show wraps up? Just stay live on Twitch.
Sure, I can just keep this going, but we do need to end the episode.
Yes, all right. So until next time, I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
And if you want to find the path, you need no direction.
And we're still live.
Yeah, we have never done this as far as I know. I used to do a 3.5 minutes at the end of 3.5 Private Sanctuary, which is basically what became Geek Together.
Right.
But yeah, just looking around, there's a couple of things I never talked about. I got Torso Test Art by Lar de Souza.
Ooh.
So now I am definitely committed to this, the gnome that was the middle gnome of 3 gnomes pretending to be human and is the only survivor of the 3.
I still can't believe we made that character. It was cool at the end of it, but I still can't believe we did that.
So I gotta say, like, I have apparently been accused of being quite negative over the last year, which still surprises me. But if anyone wants to see positive Ryan, go to last episode, or I guess 2 episodes ago, not the review, but episode 203. Get to the part where we build that character with Mark and Linda. I am having a blast with 2nd edition. That is still my 2nd edition highlight, that I took the idea, a combination of your Explorer, which is completely a reasonable suggestion, and my absolutely stupid idea of being 1 gnome of 3 gnomes in a trench coat pretending to be human, the only survivor of the 3, and managed to make that meaningfully dictate the choices that we're making for that character. No Har the Shark is asking if I have managed to play a Torso Test. I have not yet, unfortunately, but I will. And I've got the Pathfinder character sheet printed up, which was originally going to be where I would transcribe those rules that we came up with Mark and Linda. But I've decided I'm going to print out your character sheet, Perram, and really see what all the hype is about. And that's where Torso Test is going to exist. Wonderful. In, rules form. I wish I could GM Torso Test. That would be a fun character to run through a PFS game. You can, because I never did get to play that replayable. So maybe we can make some arrangements. I don't know exactly when. This weekend is Abigail's birthday party, because Abigail's birthday was on Friday of Gen Con. And so I missed it. And we've arranged our lives around Gen Con, and Abigail is very understanding for a 2-year-old. So yeah, but this weekend is definitely a family weekend. And then, Vanessa is suggesting that we actually release it as a podcast. I was just saying maybe we'll just play the game. She's just married to the phrase content. But speaking of Pathfinder plays, No Direction plays, one of the only other things I purchased at Gen Con was Deep Cuts Yaks. Yeah, I saw that. You showed me that. Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. Technically oxen. That just means we need green stuff. Do we? I don't know what the difference is between an oxen and a yak. A yak is a very furry oxen. Oh, okay. Then yes. But doesn't it defeat the purpose of getting a deep cut miniature if you're going to apply green stuff to it? No, it's a great base. Okay. I thought, it's higher quality detail and it's pre-primed. Oh, yeah. No, I guess so. But you know what I think about that. Yeah. So anyway, the fact that I did not buy many things. We saw the coolest miniatures at so many different booths, so many things I could have bought. And instead I bought a couple of oxen for a game that I already ran. Don't know if I'm ever going to rerun it. The ending's been spoiled for anyone that listened to it and therefore would be excited to play in it. But I had to. Yeah. Yaks have become, for whatever reason, synonymous with 2nd edition GMing for me. And so these are my, my mascots. And maybe I'll even paint both of them up and we'll do some kind of giveaway with the extra one. And I'll just keep one as a mascot. And I can kind of just see, like... Yak iconics, No Har the Shark says. And I can understand your enthusiasm because, like,
ever since I got to read the review copy of PF2, and honestly, really, since PaizoCon, when I got to see it and touch it the first time, it's just been, it feels like when I first got into this game with my bound and printed spiral bound black and white copy of the beta, and I'm just trying to find excuse after excuse to play this as often as possible. I'm running a home. My home game is playing more often than it has ever played. We're running multiple games a week of that. My whole crew is gearing up for tomorrow's Thursday night game. That we're going to be playing PFS on Saturday, and if I can get PFS on Sunday, I'll do it. I mean, any excuse I can to play this game right now, I want to do it because I'm just enjoying every moment that I'm in it.
So does that mean your Mutants and Masterminds campaign is on hold?
Well, we ended it. Like, we timed that so that it would end right as...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it had a nice climactic ending. Everybody had a great bit of fun. I totally want to play that again. But, like, it feels like I am a young gamer again with young gamer energy, and I'm spending like my breaks at work grabbing my notebook and just scribbling campaign ideas in the corners of my margins and sketching out maps and dungeons and stuff. And it's been years since I've had that amount of youthful energy, creative font of energy to play.
Awesome. Well, I can't go into how I have been expressing my creative energy, but 2E has definitely kindled something in me. Rekindled, I guess. And that's stuff you'll probably be hearing about in the near future.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, No Heart the Shark says he'd love to see a Mutants and Masterminds game built on the 2E chassis.
Ooh.
That does sound good, although...
That sounds like a ton of work.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a good time for it either, because Mutants and Masterminds has really ramped up their game. They've got a lot of support coming out.
Right.
Friend of the show and our GM on Adventurous, Crystal, is working hard on a lot of Mutants and Masterminds products.
Right. I used her book to play. That Beginner Heroes Handbook was such a useful resource for learning the game quickly and playing it.
Every other line in chat is about yaks.
We have a new mascot, Ryan. Forget the gnomes.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to toss torso test aside. So, oh man.
Torso test should be rebuilt
as a yak?
shape-shifting druid yak shifter.
I think I'd have to make a new character because
okay.
Torso test, like, those were meaningful choices, Perram, remember?
Oh, okay. We will make a new gnome that is a yak shapeshifter.
So I'm going to get very Canadian for a bit. About 15 years ago, maybe longer, Toronto had some kind of fundraising thing where they were selling, what is it called? The material, not plexiglass. What are statues made out of when they're very colorful and plasticky?
Vinyl.
No.
Resin?
No, it's got like a wire interior.
Fiberglass?
And, yes, thank you. They were selling these fiberglass mooses as a fundraiser, and companies would buy them, paint them, finish them, and then put them outside their company. So one summer or a couple of summers, you would go to Toronto, and just everywhere there were these colorful mooses. So I wonder if we can maybe make a deal with WizKids that we could get just thousands of these and sell them as some kind of, well, maybe not thousands, but sell them to listeners that want to do a custom, really artistic version of a yak. Throw on some kind of No Direction cutie mark on the flank.
Oh,
I don't know. This is just, I'm going to have to
Why do I see a yak t-shirt in their future?
There, maybe. I'm looking up Toronto fiberglass moose. Moose in the City was what it was called.
We use bears. We use fiberglass bears in my area.
All right. Oh, unfortunately, there's only one image on the Wikipedia article, but if we go to images, yeah, there we go.
My gosh.
Google search Toronto fiberglass moose.
And you have infected chat, Ryan. We got no direction.
No direction.
From Donato Classic. Just in peace, Soldier, saying we yak about gaming. We got the
I am so good.
Yakatar.
Because, like, up until a couple of hours before that game session, it was just going to be a sheep herder. And I was like, I need something with a little more personality than sheep. Yaks.
Well, that happened.
I'm so glad that took off because you know what? We got a lot of response to our review, but very little response to that actual play, which is fine. It was a fun game and it informed the review.
Mhm.
But, you know, whenever content goes out there and then just kind of sits unnoticed,
Right.
I'm like, oh, what happened? Did something go wrong? Was it just there's
Well,
too much competing content? Was people just
yeah.
more interested in the review?
I mean,
So
when
anyway,
you put it across one of the biggest episodes that the podcast is ever going to have, it's going to have stiff competition.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, for whether people have listened to it or not, they now know that I am and we are somehow permanently connected to Yaks. And oh yeah, Louis says there were plenty of people paying more attention to 2E. Yeah. Or there were probably a lot of people paying more attention to 2E. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, anyway, now they know that Yaks were heavily involved in that adventure, and the Yaks will forever be connected to No Direction. No reaction.
Oh, man.
This was fun. Maybe we should do these casual wrap-ups. Like, it's just an extra 5 or 10 minutes tacked on to the end of the episode.
I mean, sure. I'm cool with it.
All right. Something to remember in the future. All right. People in chat, since most of you stuck around after the shout-outs for this.
You're the best. You're awesome, chat. You're great.
Yeah, especially we were not super attentive to the chat today, unlike when we have a guest on and, like, the guest could be talking, one of us could be working with the guest, and one of us could be looking at chat today. When it's just the two of us, we get a little less interactive. But when we these post shows are a good chance to just talk directly to the chat.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we're ready to wrap things up. It's 11:30 our local time.
And also, here's a secret, gang. So that you don't hear all the background noise, a lot of us turn the air conditioners off. And it's summer. And I am hot.
So my office is in the basement, and just the way the air conditioning works in the house is that the basement is always the coolest.
Mm-hmm.
And so to keep the rest of my family sleeping comfortably, I am freezing down here.
I'm just gonna leave this in. I'm gonna leave this in the episode. Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
Give it as a preview of the kind of thing you could expect if you do catch us live.
Well, like Waypoint does this too. They end their episode and then they just sort of leave the mic running for 10 minutes, and some of the most fun stuff happens in that 10 minutes.
So Steven says, and I live in Canada where it's always cold, and I will correct you that Montreal is extremely humid. In fact, Indianapolis was a nice, pleasant retreat from the Montreal humidity. Because there's just something about either because we're an island or because of where we are as the wind blows. Montreal gets freezing cold in the winter, but so humid and uncomfortable in the summer. There is a very small area where we are comfortable, and that is, the 2 weeks we call spring. All right. On that note, very Canadian wrap-up section. Was not expecting it. All right, later, gang. We don't have an official sign-off for bonus content. This is just fun we're having with you.
Later, everybody.